evening. I now call the Sherborn Board of Health meeting of February 11th, 2026 to order at 7:03 p.m. This is a virtual meeting, and per state law, board members are required to announce their presence. We shall proceed by roll call. Co-Chair Beardsley, would you start? Oh, it sounds like Daryl. I just see a message from Daryl. She needs to log out and in again.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, yay. Okay,
Perfect.
I've been playing around with some settings.
You were suffering in silence.
It's working.
All right.
Okay, Daryl Beardsley present.
Steve Constantine present.
Julie Dreyfus present.
Diana Hook present.
I do not see Rebecca. Sarah, if Rebecca joins, if you could just interrupt us so we can acknowledge that she has joined the meeting. All right, first off, thanks, Sarah. Amendments to our agenda. I am not aware of any urgent amendments. Does anyone have anything?
I do.
Yes. Oh, okay. I was going to say we need to move up the blue item that's under is it other agenda items in the blue ink. Really should be something that we vote on as to whether it qualifies to be added less than 48 hours in advance.
Is that for Pine Hill Elementary School? The food establishment permit?
Yes.
All right,
I think that came in late, unless it was added to the agenda that was posted 48 hours in advance. But if it was between then and today, or now, we need to vote.
Sarah, can you clarify, was this posted on when the agenda was posted Monday, or was it added?
The incorrect agenda was posted on Monday, so it didn't come in after it was just the draft agenda had been posted. And so when we sent this one, this was the recommendation was to put it in blue and add the note on the bottom. So it didn't come in, but the wrong agenda was posted. So I guess yes.
Okay. That's a tricky one. Maybe
Okay.
just
Yeah, I'm not sure what the procedure is for that.
Yeah, if it's just the wrong one got posted, but it was on the agenda.
Oh, well, it is. If it was not anticipated by the chair 48 hours in advance, or co-chairs, then it technically qualifies for that because I thought it was a new item.
Okay, so it was to be on the agenda, and it just okay. So you do not think we have to amend that to read?
I think it's probably good practice to do it.
Okay. Just to be safe. I agree. Do I have a motion to amend the agenda to add the food establishment permit for Pine Hill Elementary School to our agenda this evening?
So moved.
Seconded.
And I'll second that. Okay.
Hearing no further.
And I'll say that
to
me, this qualifies as a public health issue that really shouldn't be delayed.
Hearing no further discussion.
Daryl Beardsley, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
One minute. Well, that's everyone. That's good. Other items for amendment.
Someone joined. I'm not sure if that's Rebecca, the 996 number.
I don't know. Nope. Oh, it is. Rebecca, could you please announce your presence? We cannot hear you.
This is Rebecca Honeywell, and I'm present.
Thank you. All right. Any other items to amend the agenda this evening? Okay. Hearing none, the agenda will stand with that one amendment. We do not have any scheduled business this evening. We do have a couple of items of which we have community members present. One is for our continued discussion on CNL Frosties and their food application. We also have, I believe, 198 South Main Street. And then, Mark, do you have someone else here?
Yes, the owner's here, Dennis Quant, as well as Rick Lind. He's the architect, I guess, and the developer for the project at 198 South Main Street.
Okay, sounds good. Um, we usually do first come, first serve, but I don't know who was first. I'll leave that. Sarah, was there someone who was in the waiting room longer?
I got a notification that Elias was in the waiting room first.
Okay, first to the finish line. Sounds good. Why don't we take, let's take the discussion at CNL Frosty first then. And to the folks here for 198 South Main Street, it's going to be a few minutes before we get to your item, in case you need to step away. All right.
Just a quick question. Are we anticipating anybody else to attend for CNL?
Oh, that's right.
I don't think so.
Is Chris Canny coming to the meeting at all, Sarah?
Chris is on standby. So if we have any questions, he's on his cell phone and he can join if needed.
Thank you.
But I went with him today with Elias and Kenneth and spoke in great detail with both of them about the plan. So
Thank
I'm confident.
Was Mr. King planning to attend this evening?
He said if he could. I didn't hear one way or the other. I don't know, Elias, if you heard anything.
I'm not sure if he said he could. I also might think he might have a language barrier that might be coming up. So, I mean, we were both there. Both I and Sarah and I were both there. So, I mean, we can kind of go over what was said at that point. I think we've kind of come to an agreement in terms of the build out and what it entitles and all that. I'm happy to ask any questions. Oh, there you go. Perfect. That'll help.
Excellent.
I also spoke with Kenneth while Elias and Chris Canny were discussing other logistics of the build, and I was able to ask him some of the recurring questions the board has asked. So I have some of those answers if those come up as well.
Okay. So I'm going to take a stab at your last name, Elias. Mr. Tembelopoulos.
Thembelopoulos. Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Would you prefer to be called by your last name, or would you prefer to be called Elias?
Whatever is easier for you. It makes no difference. We're good. Elias is fine.
Sure. Thank you. Why don't you review with us? I know since our last meeting, you have been visiting the site, speaking with the building inspector and trying to evaluate the constraints that the site poses, of which there are many, and then evaluating what's the best option to move forward. So why don't you update us on kind of where you're at with that?
Correct. So if you're looking at this drawing, what was proposed before and I know it was accepted was where the existing bathroom was in the back right. So the top right of this was going to be kind of made into a public bathroom, ADA compliant, and customers would go on the outside of the building around to the back of the store and enter in, yep, through that doorway. There would be a wall that's parallel with the exterior wall, the rear wall. And that would be kind of the separation of the kitchen. It kind of crowded the kitchen and created a strange dynamic that, I think we all kind of agreed, even though it ticked the boxes as far as the technicalities of what needed to be there, it really wasn't a good design. So what I was kind of pushing for was putting the bathroom in the existing dining room right there. Perfect. We have a mechanical room that abuts that on the other side. There's water there. We found a way to get to the sewer without interrupting anything on the outside or the inside as far as breaking the ground and digging down, which creates problems with the EPA, among other things. And we think we found a kind of clear path to be able to do that today. Um, we have the space. There would be a few seats that would be eliminated because of this, but I think that's a net gain in the end because customers would no longer have to leave the building to actually access the bathroom. It doesn't harm the kitchen in any detrimental way, which was a concern for the health department as well. Um, and essentially, it's just creating something where it doesn't exist now, rather than trying to force something that exists to kind of work with code now. We have the space. We're able to do everything within the footprint of the store. Uh, Again, customers would be able to access from the inside, and it would not interrupt the functioning of the kitchen of the restaurant, nor anything sanitary in that regard. Um, as far as cost, I think we've kind of come to the conclusion it's going to be kind of a pretty much a even trade from what was being proposed before. I actually think it might even be cheaper for Mr. Kang, which I'm sure he'd be happy about. Um, Logistically, it can be done while he's operating because it's not operating anything in the kitchen. It's not going to affect anything in the back room. That could just be walled off and the work could be done. It would take a little longer if he's open, but it can be done. And I don't see, other than finding out from his contractor, how long he could drop quick plans. I don't see this taking much longer. Probably actually, maybe I would say less time than the previous design, which included pouring concrete, breaking floor, and a bunch of other things. Um, so that's kind of the gist of it. I'm happy to answer any questions.
So I want to note that Mr. Kang is here. He did join.
Oh, welcome, Mr. King. We're talking about the new proposed design for the ADA bathroom in your restaurant. And please feel free to unmute and chime into the conversation. So I'll start with a couple of questions. First, kind of where the bathroom is, and this is outside of our jurisdiction, but it's just to clarify that this has been passed through the building inspector. There had been an exit where the new ADA bathroom is being proposed. Eliminating that exit still meets code.
We believe it does. I think Chris was going to check on that just to make sure, but he's under the impression it does because there's limited seating in there anyways. So it would still meet code. That was kind of just an extra access to the back. And from what I understand, I think it was kind of a point of contention with Mr. Kang as well, with customers entering from the back, which kind of made it difficult for, service. So he's not upset with losing the door either. We'll obviously double check to make sure as far as, fire code and all that, we're okay, but we believe that it's well within the limits.
Okay, excellent.
Okay.
Go ahead, Daryl. I can tell you
I
how.
had the same question. So, and so the door in the back, if need be, would provide a second means of egress. The
Yeah.
one through the kitchen at the back of okay.
Right. Yeah. So it exists as is now, and there is a chance that we could possibly put one in there, just move it over from where it exists now. We'd have to change the shape of the bathroom where you're seeing it there kind of as a rectangle going across. It would be a rectangle going up and down, and there would be a tiny hallway, if we absolutely had to. But from the seating count and what we have in there, we don't think that would be necessary.
Okay. And could you, I think part of the board's question has been the time frame and timeline for the installation. And there are so many components to that with drafting the plans, getting them approved through the building department, getting the contractor on site, doing all of that. I think we're trying to understand what that timeline looks like relative to when Mr. King would like to open.
Sure. So I mean, I'm sure he'd like to open, sooner rather than later, of course. As far as getting plans, I don't know. We're going to have his contractor down there shortly to take a look at this and, kind of push to get some plans done really quickly. We already know what we're looking at, so it's just literally a matter of getting the plans drawn up as quickly as possible, and then he claims he can get right to it after that. His contractor, that is. So, timeline. I don't know that it can be done in the time that he wants to open. I'm wondering if he could be allowed some time to do this as he's open. Obviously we're going to be pushing to get this done sooner rather than later because, as he opens up, he might be slower for the first few weeks, but as the weather gets better, I'm sure his business is going to increase and he'd like to have that done and, out of the way. Technically he can continue to operate because nothing's being done in the kitchen that would upset, anything from that standpoint. Um, so I guess the question is, can he be allowed a little time to open if this takes a little longer than the time that he's needed to open? I think he's trying to open in a couple of weeks. Obviously, I don't know that plans can be done that quick and start working. It might take, within 2 months, I would say, to complete this. But to say something on the safe side, I don't want to speak too much for his contractor, but from what he had told me, that's what it sounds like.
Mr. King, if you want to add to that, please feel free.
Oh, hello, sir. My name is Kenneth. You heard it? You can hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
Kenneth, it sounds like, is it your hope to open the business for the season and conduct the construction while the business is open?
So my plan was supposed to be open like March first week Tuesday. So is a March 2nd. It wasn't my plan. So previous plan was contractor say it might be take 2 weeks or 2 3 weeks, but we are right now changing something like a plan, and then to be honest, I don't know how long it'll take it because we have to talk with contractor again about this new plan. After that, we might be know how long it'll take it or what's going on. And then to be honest, right now it's just like in the middle. We don't know about how how long take it or not. And then anyway, so my plan is just want to keep opening for like CNF Frosty while with construction, if I can possible. And then if not, I have no idea what should I do.
If I could chime in 1 second, I think from his standpoint, one of the um, stress points would be, getting the employees back to work in the time that they were supposed to, because, God forbid he takes an extra 2 weeks, they could go looking for other jobs. And as a business owner, I understand that point of view as well. It's a valid point. So I think, what he's looking for is just to get open and do the work while that's happening.
Sounds good. Board members, other board members have questions before we begin discussion as a board?
I just have one question. Is the existing bathroom staying or is that being repurposed?
The plan is for that to stay. This, to be honest, just from a construction standpoint, this new plan is actually less construction than the old plan. There's no demolition that's going to be done here. There's minimal digging that's going to be done to put a ejector system in the ground within the footprint of the building, obviously, and then some piping, and then whatever the fixtures are. So basically, we're building something in a raw space, which is much easier than demoing something, relocating all the electrical and plumbing that exists there, breaking open a floor, pouring concrete because they have a different level in the kitchen than from the outside, and to make it ADA accessible, it all has to be even. So there's quite a bit more work to do that old plan in the back. So the plan is just to leave what's back there, which actually I think helps the business function better because his employees will have their bathroom in the back. They don't have to go out to the front to use the facilities. So the bathroom that's going to be built will be strictly for the customers.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Other board members with questions?
I don't have questions, just comments.
I did have a question, Julie. Looking at the schematic, I can see the outside walls. Do the light walls, the two lines, are those already in existence as a wall?
The ones in blue.
Not the ones in blue, that where you're writing, yes, right there. Is
Okay, that
already-
is an existing wall that
Okay.
separates dining room from the kitchen at the moment, the way it is. That won't move at all. The
Okay.
only thing that will be added will be exactly that one.
Yes, with the door. Okay.
Yep, exactly.
No, I was just trying to picture how much disruption could be involved because even with construction, you can get some dust and so forth.
Sure. Yeah, I think one of the better ways to do it, and obviously we're going to go over this with the contractor and see, how we can do this. If we can build the interior wall in the front end of the build out
Mm,
and kind of block it off,
contain it. Mhm.
contain it, and then we can leave that exterior door that still exists there until the very end and kind of go in and out from there and, do the work that needs to be done. You almost kind of quarantine it from the rest of the store so it doesn't disrupt anything
Oh,
as much as possible, obviously.
yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
That's a good idea. I like that.
About how many dining chairs or seats are going to be removed in order to accommodate this the bathroom location?
It looks like it would probably be 6.
Okay.
So bring it down to like, maybe 14 and possibly 16. There might be a couple two tops that could move further over into existing space. I guess we'll kind of decide that once we lay the wall. We know where the wall would go, so we know how much space we have, but we didn't actually, space out the seats to see. So it would be anywhere from, I would say, 14 to 16 seats left versus the 20 that exist now.
Okay. Okay. I was trying to make sure it wasn't like half or more of your chairs that you were
No,
going to lose.
no.
Yeah. Perfect. Board members with other questions before we, as a board, kind of start talking about pathways here. Board members, please speak up. I'm not seeing hands. Okay. So for the board, before this meeting, I spoke with our food inspector just to kind of understand some of the pathways. One of the things we discussed is if Mr. Kang and Mr. Tempelopoulos would like to open the business and have it operate while construction was happening. My understanding from Tom Curran is that we would need to have a construction plan that describes how dust would be minimized, how to make sure that there is no interference in the kitchen, which it sounds like that would be pretty easy given this layout. He also noted that sometimes you need to have a pest management plan because when you have a building opened up, the likelihood of pests coming in at least increases. Again, I think the way that this is being laid out and the construction access that is being proposed through that back door certainly would make that construction plan easier, but we would need to have that in writing and in place in order to be able to proceed if that was the option. The other option for the board to consider would be recognizing that, we've seen incredible cooperation from both Mr. Kang and Mr. Tembelopoulos for this project, and that is our goal, is to reach compliance in a way that is agreeable to all parties and is best for the patrons of this business. We could consider a variance, a temporary variance that would allow them to operate. We could do that for a period of time while they were getting the rest of their construction plans in line, getting the plan drafted, um, getting the schedule from the contractor, getting that mitigation strategy in place for the construction to occur while the kitchen was operating. And then they could come back to us and then we could go from there. And there is certainly the potential that we could discuss of a third option, which would be if the board felt that there was any reason that this needed to be pushed out to the next off season, we would be able to extend a variance to that point as well. So I think for board members trying to think about what is the most feasible pathway forward for this business in terms of do we I think it's really hard. I think we have to we have to put forth a variance for them to be able to open without this bathroom fully installed and in place. The question is, how long would that variance extend to? When would we expect them to install this?
I don't think I'll answer that last question first. But, sort of a few thoughts. Certainly, if we are going to have some kind of a plan, and I do appreciate the efforts that have been taken to find a workable solution since the first one had its own challenges. And so it certainly sounds as though both the owner of the property and of the business are in agreement on this particular plan that we've been looking at. In terms of issuing a permit and operating before this is complete, I'm okay with that because to me, the main interest is to have the business move to a better place, and it has been a complicated situation, both technically and then just with change of ownership, and so there have been some interesting elements to this. I also think that that interim period of not having this ADA compliant bathroom does not compromise the food safety of the business, and in fact would make it easier to continue operating by having it in the new location, whereas trying to adjust the employee bathroom while doing that would have been extraordinarily difficult and probably not feasible really to carry that out. So I'm in favor of that. The other point is if we do permit things moving ahead, I'd like to be kept in the loop about where things are at and whether things are on track. I don't want to curse them, but inevitably things come up as one is doing a construction project. So as long as we know that things continue to move forward, that would be great. Again, compliance is the goal. And then in terms of granting a variance, I don't know if it needs to be precedent setting. It could be. Don't know that we don't have a lot of food establishments in town, so I don't know that we would encounter this exact situation again, but I think I would be comfortable with that because again, it's balancing between a long-standing condition that has been asked to upgrade to current standards. And I think that just takes time.
Right. And some of this is just the sequencing, again, between both the property and the business changing hands and kind of the timeline that those happened in relative to plans being drawn up. Really, good faith efforts have been made. What we're trying to do is accommodate those unique circumstances of timeline. Other board members?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, Rebecca.
They can rent a porta potty, and then nothing would have to be delayed in any way. And then the public has access to a toilet, and everybody can be in compliance.
Um, I don't think that's one of the options. What we're talking about here is in order to issue the renewal of the food permit that has been applied for, we will need to issue a temporary variance. And the question is, how long would that variance be for? To parts of the food code, it's 5-201-11 or point 11 for the plumbing system. That's the part of the food code that requires full compliance with the plumbing code. We would grant a variance on a temporary basis so that we could issue that variance for, say, 3 months to give them time, or 2 months, or whatever time period we determine is enough for them to be able to go and get plans, get them approved by the building inspector, find out from your contractor exactly what was going to be necessary, and get us the mitigation plan for the construction work while the business is open. They could come back and then we could consider extending that variance for a time period once they actually know the timeline for construction. The alternative would be to issue a variance if we wanted to go way out through the entire operating system, with the intention that this would be installed during the next off period, which would be December 2026 or January 27 or February of 27, with the very clear expectation that a renewal for 27 of this permit will not be granted without the full installation of this bathroom.
I completely understand what you're saying. I'm proposing that a third option is that they rent a porta potty and just proceed starting on March 3rd. Then there's no problem at all. They have a porta potty until the work is done. They can proceed. All the regulations are in compliance, and there's no interruption in business. Because the previous homeowners knew that they were out of compliance, and we, the Board of Health, knew, and the new owners knew. So I think that that should be considered.
Other board members, your thoughts on the variance timeline, or asking for a porta potty to be brought in?
Where would that be put?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's space out back. I don't know. That could be evaluated. I'm sure that the food inspector, that we could find a place. I mean, this happened. People do things temporarily all the time. And the porta potties have a holding tank, and they're emptied, and there are services that come in, and it's not that expensive. People do it every weekend for parties.
Right, and they can be locked up.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm just thinking we do have a way to comply with it. And because they've come up with a good plan that doesn't require a huge amount of, significantly simpler than previous discussions, which is great for everybody because it's going to be simpler, maybe less costly, and faster to accomplish. So I don't know. I just thought I'd throw that out.
If you don't mind me chiming in real quick, just to give you an overview, we already have a scheduled appointment with the contractor to come and take a look at what we're proposing right now. So that's already on the books, no later than Monday. Chris Canny's already said he's going to be speaking to the plumbing inspector to kind of give him a heads up on what's coming his way. He's in agreement with this. He thinks it's a great idea. So I think as long as the actual contractor can literally physically get the work going, get the plans and start, we should be able to do this in some pretty good time.
Yeah, it sounds like it's doable, which is the reason that the good news is maybe it's not even going to be necessary. But if worse came to worse, that would be a way that you could
Sure
accomplish it. And I don't know, then we don't have to give a variance. We can just get it done with. And I don't know, because I do think that it is, there are advantages to having that available to the public from a public health perspective.
All right, I would say that given that the issue that we're talking about is technically under the plumbing code, which is not a Board of Health regulation, but the Board of Health can look at whether a facility is in compliance with all other regulations in ways that will help to protect the public health. But again, I'm not sure that the existence of this bathroom is tied to food safety, which is what we do look at very closely. So I think,
But I think it's a public health issue.
given that
I really do. I think it's a public health issue, and I think that technically, your answer is very technical, and I agree. Maybe you're correct from a technical standpoint, but I think it's going to benefit the community. That's all. So as a member
I
of
think we're all in agreement on that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, this issue wouldn't be moving ahead after many years of not. So we're talking 3 months, maybe 2-3 months. I'm not sure. I think the logistics of the other option are a little complicated, and the access and the ADA access are not. And to me, it seems logical to try to have the best possible schedule, get this done as soon as possible.
If you don't mind me asking, the next board meeting is on the 25th, is it, or?
No,
It's not on the 25th because it's a school vacation week. And
Oh, I'm
it's
sorry. Yes,
policy
that's right.
Yeah, it doesn't have meetings then because a lot of people would not be able to attend.
I gotcha. So then it's the 4th,
Yeah.
is it?
It's in March.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we should have quite a bit of information by then, but I'm happy to keep checking in with Sarah if that's the best point of contact as far as we get more information, to keep kind of pushing it your way so everybody's up to date.
we certainly want you to keep in contact, and contacting Sarah is a great method. I think what we're trying to accommodate here and considering our options is how can we issue this renewal for the food permit that Mr. King has applied for so that he can in fact start, I think you said March 1st. Again, recognizing the constraints that he's working under, particularly with regards to his employees, so that he can start operating and that this project can continue to move forward in a timely manner. It sounds like the appetite, Elias and Ken, that you both have is to get this bathroom done now in the spring, which would certainly is great and we would be happy to do, versus there's no particular constraints that would say you really need to push this back out until the next off season next winter. Am I correct with that?
Yeah, I mean, I from my point of view, obviously getting it done quicker is the better route. I think, materials always go up and everything goes up in the long term. So,
Yeah.
laws change. So I think you kind of grab the bull by the horns and get it done.
Yeah, I would agree. The longer you wait, the more it costs.
Yeah.
Julie, just my thoughts would be,
Yeah.
I think the variance would be a good idea, and maybe have that go through the end of April. So that would give them a good 2.5 months to get the work done and completed. And then I like Rebecca's idea as well. If we need to, we can revisit that mid-April.
I think Rebecca's point was you would not require a variance by bringing
Understood.
in a porta-john. Logistically, my concern with porta-john is this, recognizing how constrained that entire site or campus is, where to put it. I do not know, and I welcome if anyone does know, if for construction, if there has to be a porta-john on site anyways for the construction workers, in which case, does that have to be a dedicated porta-john? Would there have to be multiple porta-johns on site? And I really think that's going to be a constraint issue. I don't know. Does anyone know that? That's outside of our jurisdiction.
I mean, we kind of talked about putting one out there at one point, just when we were, we didn't know which way we were going at that point. The only real place to put something like that would be in the back parking lot. In other words, that wouldn't be in a walkway or in a roadway or whatever. It would probably be in a spot in the rear parking lot where the post office parks its trucks. It's not necessarily close, but if we have to do it for a couple weeks, that's fine. We could do it.
And that
I
would
think
be for the construction workers, right?
I mean, I would probably say more for the construction workers. I don't know if, a customer would want to walk all the way back there to use it, but it would be there for an emergency.
Yeah. All right, so my inclination is, and we'll go around to board members to kind of see where people are landing. My inclination, while I respect your idea, Rebecca, about not issuing a variance and bringing in the porta-john, I think logistically, if they're trying to get this done fast with a tight space, that's just going to be another variable. I would be more inclined to issue a temporary variance. I like Steve's idea of a couple of months. And therefore there is a push to keep this moving with the understanding that if they hit a roadblock, that they would be coming back to us for to request an extension of that variance. And that way they can open on schedule. And that will not be a concern for Mr. King and his employees. And that also gives them time to kind of get all the ducks in a row and get this moving.
What about just putting them on the agenda for the month before and just see where they are? And if they haven't had a chance to finish the work, or if there's a delay, then at that meeting we decide whether they need a variance or whether they need a porta potty. And in the meantime, a porta potty company can look and see if there's a suitable location, and the owners can see if there's a suitable location to them. I mean, everybody can look around and make an evaluation that is reasonable. And then we just decide at that point whether or not it's even needed. Maybe it'll not even be necessary.
To issue the renewal of the permit for the business to operate under the food code requires compliance with all applicable laws, which includes the plumbing code. And the plumbing code is what requires this ADA compliant bathroom. And so in order to issue the permit for the business to open, we have to have a variance at the same time. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So we can't come back and we can't issue the permit and then partway into the permit decide that they require a variance. It's the sequence is off there. Other board
Why
members.
just require that it be done? And if they are unable to comply, I mean, we already discussed, or my point was that maybe they don't need a variance at all, because if we reevaluate right at the last minute, they might be able to comply with everything without a variance anyway, just using a porta potty, but maybe they'll be done anyway and we don't need a variance, period.
Well, they want to open March 1st. That doesn't leave a whole lot of time to create plans, get it approved, and construct things. So I do think we need to discuss a variance and approve.
Oh, Diane, I think you may have frozen. Okay, Diane unfroze. Diana, you froze for the last part of your statement. You do believe we need to grant a variance, and then
Yes.
that's where you froze.
Yes, it's just, yes, and continue working up the details for that, because March 1st isn't that far away.
It's not, yeah. Steve, you were in agreement with that, or?
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement. What we haven't really heard is either Elias or Kenneth come back and say whether um, end of April would be sufficient time to get the work done.
Yeah, I think they're probably unsure, but um, Elias and Ken, what time period do you think is reasonable for the next steps and for completion?
So that's a construction is hand. So I might be push them to as soon as possible, like a previous plan. But first of all, we have to talk on Monday. It's coming next Monday, and then after that, I might know the detail. But I might say it's less than 3 months for construction.
Mm.
I mean, I'm not sure, but what I heard that they say before previous plan was 1 month, but this one I don't know about it detail. But I can say maybe less than 3 months. It should be can be done.
Okay.
Again, I don't want to promise anything, but I would have to agree that anything over 3 months would be kind of crazy to me. I don't think that's a possibility. I think it would be done in much shorter time than that. We just have to check with the contractor to make sure that he can line up his people. There is technically less work to be done with this plan. So it should be done in fairly quick fashion. I would say the only sticking point might be the actual drawing of the plans. Sometimes the engineers and architects get a little tied up, and what could take 1 week takes 2 weeks or something like that. Once the construction's going, that should happen fast.
Sarah, what April is the other meeting or other month that we just have one meeting due to school vacation. And I do not remember what that meeting date is. But I think what we would want to make sure is that we had a meeting time where if in fact they needed to come back, they recognized that time frame, they were going to need a little extra, that they would have the opportunity to come back. That's my biggest concern about choosing the end of April, is that actually only leaves 3 meetings for them to kind of evaluate where they are in terms of completion. And I agree with you, Elias. There's a number of things that can hold you up a week or two, and that can make a big difference. I'm inclined to grant the variance. It'd be generous, but through the end of May would be my thinking. So that way, if by the end of April they were behind schedule, or by middle of April, we would have at least a meeting or two before that for them to come back. Other board members for timeline?
I agree with that reasoning.
Any board members disagree with end of May for the variance extension?
I think I'm fine with that.
Diana, is that okay?
Yes, I'm fine
Yeah.
with that.
And Rebecca, I know you're not inclined to go down the variance route, but I think that is where the board is leaning.
I don't think we need to at all. I mean, but this will not be the first time we don't agree. So
I think this is a route that allows them to open on schedule and to get the work done promptly. And that is our
but I
goal.
don't think that my suggestion in any way will prevent them from opening on schedule. And it also complies with all the laws. And it also is better practice for public health, actually, from a public health perspective, like from a clinical perspective. But that's my opinion as a physician.
So as a regulator, I would say that actually having a temporary variance gives us leverage to ensure that this work is done thoroughly and timely. And the goal for this property is to ensure that they do have a not porta-john ADA bathroom available for the community. And it's going to be well received by the community, I have no doubt. All right, why don't we work to crafting a motion? So, and I'm going to take friendly amendments because I'm crafting this on the fly. I would move to, we actually have two food permit applications. Is that right, Sarah? One is for the food establishment and one is for the selling of frozen desserts and ice cream mix. Am I correct?
Yes.
So we would actually, we can put those two together, right? When we make a motion, because it would, the conditions would apply, the variance would apply to both. So I move to approve the food establishment permit for, it's the K Brothers Incorporated doing business as C&L Frosties for the 2026 season, in addition to the permit for its IC 26-01 to sell frozen desserts and ice cream mix with a variance to the food code 105 CMR. I think it's 5 dash. I'm going to just put this in here. Hang on for Sarah for the month. 5-201.11, which is relative to the requirements of complying with the plumbing code. Through variance to be granted through the end of May of 2026. The variance is not transferable should the business transfer in that time period. I know that's not the intention, but just to make sure it's clear. And that if necessary, the applicant is to return before the board if that deadline is not to be met and the variance needs to be requested an extension. Okay, that was a really choppy motion. Anybody want to help add pieces?
Do we want to require any kind of, at least monthly updates of progress or timelines? Is that important for us? We've set down a deadline, for the variance, but do we need to be informed along the way?
I personally think that's a great idea, that the board get a monthly update and include with that from the owner of the buildings, an update on the public water supply to make sure they're complying with the state DEP.
Okay. So we need an update. Mark, what kind of within this, what time period would you want that? Do you think
I
that
would
should
say the anniversary date of today, so updating us April 11th, March 11th, I'm sorry, and April 11th. I would hope those two dates we could get updates by those two dates. That includes the public water supply.
Okay.
If it's okay for me to chime in, I don't mind if Sarah wants to maybe ping me before any of the next meetings, we can update every single meeting.
I was gonna say, Elias, you have my email address and the phone number for the office, and I'm always available. So if you want to just give updates as they come, I
Sure.
will gladly keep track of those and report back to the board as needed.
Yeah, absolutely. And as far as the water, we have it set up on a monthly testing, and I believe they're directly sending you the results every month. Am I incorrect in that, or?
You're correct in the water testing. This is to make sure your transfer of ownership has
Yeah.
been completed. The state indicated in an email to us that
Yeah, they just sent me a form actually a couple days ago. Yep.
so as long as that's more or less what I mean, you
Oh,
obviously
okay.
have to follow the testing program, but
Yeah, yeah.
I would like to have the board see an update on that as soon as you complete that requirement to transfer ownership and complete the deed recording.
Yep. Perfect.
Thank
I think
thank
that's
you.
pretty much complete. I'm getting ready to send that over back to them within the week. So
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Okay. Mark, were you also referring to our annual water test results that we look for
No, that
when issuing food permits or
no,
no?
this is separate, Daryl. This is the
Okay.
state sent an email to us indicating that they needed to transfer ownership at the state level, and Elias just noted that he is working on that at this present time. I was just asking that we be updated, on those anniversary dates of March 11th or April 11th, whatever comes sooner, on the status of that. And as Elias said, he's going to
Okay.
keep Sarah in the loop as well, so we may have information prior to those noted anniversary dates.
Okay. I thought you were asking for monthly test results.
No, they're a
You know,
public
some
water
testing
supply.
is done monthly, but not all tests are done every
Yeah,
month.
exactly. And because they're a public water supply, they're testing probably more than what we require for a food permit, but that
Yeah.
would, if they're not, then we can advise them if they haven't tested, say, for nitrates and nitrites or bacteria, or every 5 years for volatiles as required for our food permits. But I believe they're getting that done because they're a public water supply more often than what we would require.
Mhm. Yeah.
If that helps, I hope that helps.
Okay. So thank you, Sarah, for pulling up our next meeting dates. So we would, oh no, you took them away. I needed those. Looks like March 4th, April 8th, and March, what was it, 6th? May, excuse me. March 4th,
May.
April 8th, and May 6th, excuse me. Those are the first meetings of each month. So part of the motion would be to ask Mr. Tambelopoulos and Mr. Kang to update our administrator, Sarah, with kind of the status of how things are going, and then she can update the board, or you could also come on and talk to us directly as well. So before each of those dates, ideally,
At least
it's a couple
I would,
days before.
yeah, Julia, exactly. I would say 2 days prior so it can be placed on the agenda.
Yeah. So just walk those dates back 2-3 days.
Yeah.
Um, does that make sense and sound reasonable?
Happy to do that.
Okay. All right, we have a choppy motion, but I think we have a complete detailed motion, of which Sarah's going to get to sort that out during when she does these minutes. That's the motion. Does anybody want to, I've made the motion. Does anybody want a second?
I would love it if you read the motion.
I don't know if I can actually do that. So we are moving, I move to approve the food establishment permit for the K Brothers doing business as C&L Frosties for their 2026 annual food permit, as well as their frozen dessert and ice cream mix permit. With the condition that they are receiving a temporary variance until the end of May 2026 to the Food Code 5-201-11, which is the section of the code that requires compliance with the plumbing code. And it's the plumbing code, to clarify, that requires the ADA bathroom. So we're giving them a variance to that so they can construct that bathroom.
Julie, did we vote separately on the variance
No, it's
and food permit?
we're voting for the food permit with the variance attached to it. The variance is like a condition. Daryl, do you feel like that's the wrong way to do it?
No, I think that's okay.
It's a little clunkier because it's yeah. But they have to be paired together.
Yes.
And with the condition that prior to our March, April, and May first meetings, that an update be sent on the status of the project, as well as an update on the transfer of ownership of the public water supply and the subsequent deed recording. Did I get that right, Mark?
Propose that we that we approve their permit as long as with the requirement that they have that toilet option available to the general public at a certain by March 2nd or whatever, some arbitrary date that you think is appropriate, and then have a separate vote for whether a variance should be required, given now versus later.
We can't issue the food permit without issuing this variance at the same time.
We can issue the food permit with a date that has a toilet available and then issue a variance to that attached to it as a separate thing, because if they have a permit with that date, then they, it doesn't have to have the variance attached to it. It just gives them a permit, so their operations are allowed to proceed. Then the variance is a separate subject. Whether it's necessary or not will play out.
The permit is conditional to all applicable laws, one of which is the plumbing code. They are receiving a temporary variance to the plumbing code as it is identified under the food code.
That is correct.
Dr. Honeywell has offered an amendment to the motion. Does anyone want to second that amendment? Otherwise, the motion will stand. I hear no second. The motion has been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none.
Carol Beardsley, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell abstain.
Okay. Mr. Tembelopoulos and Mr. Kang, thank you for your time this evening. Thank you for your collaboration. And we look forward to continuing to hear from you. Please continue to update Sarah and reach out with questions or concerns.
Absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Have a good evening.
Good night.
Thank you.
We have had a couple people waiting for 198 South Main. I don't know if we're ready to take that, Madam Chair.
Yes, and thank you to those folks who have been waiting. Mark, would you like to go ahead and
Sure.
introduce this under your business?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So this is a property that goes back a few years. I did include the December 6th, 2023 minutes as one of our part of the agenda documents. And those minutes reflect back to 2019, allowing this property to have the garbage grinder allowance transferred into bedrooms. And in those minutes, you'll see that's no longer allowed. They just met that allowance prior to the state saying you cannot use your garbage grinder capacity to add bedroom flow. So they were required to do a deed recording that would not allow them to have a garbage grinder, and were given the opportunity to design for 6 bedrooms. With that said, they also changed the concept of the room count, because there was quite a few rooms being proposed, up to 16, I believe you'll see in the minutes. And they in turn didn't do the internal house room count change back then. And what they decided in 2019, what they decided was they were going to build a barn, and it was going to have holding areas. They're basically horse stalls and a room above. And the board did allow that, and they considered, this is what the discussion will be tonight, they just considered the house having the basement as a bedroom because they had a full bath in that space and all inclusive. And the first floor having one guest bedroom, and the second floor having 3 bedrooms. So that gave them 5, and the barn would be considered the additional bedroom. But it was to have a septic tank put in, and it did, and they just complied with that. So the issue becomes the barn and the room count. Not the room count, the barn and that basement room. Is the barn, if the barn's to be considered a bedroom, then the proposal would have more than 6 bedrooms. They're proposing a 4th bedroom on the second floor. And if the basement room is considered a bedroom, then that would bring the house up to 6 bedrooms. And the board would have to decide if the barn is not being, any part of the rooms in the barn are not being considered a bedroom. Or is the basement room not considered a bedroom? That's the question at hand. The proposal, room count wise, is fine. It has 13 rooms considered with the addition, and you can look through the first floor as well. They're changing that area as well. But it's the bedrooms, and where does the board consider the bedrooms? And if the bedrooms are all considered in the house and the barn's not considered to be in the bedroom count, but only in the room count, then this proposal that you'll see through these plans would be sufficient. But that's the decision the board has to make by looking through these proposed plans. And the company that designed these, Rick Lind, is also here. I'm not for sure, Rick, are you the architect or the contractor? Because I see another person here, Eddie Collins. I don't know if Eddie's part of your company.
He is. Good evening, Mark, and
Good
board
evening.
members. Nice to see you all again. Eddie's our salesman's on the job.
Okay,
I'm
thank you.
the vice
Thank you.
president of our company. I think Mark just explained it just as good as he can. We've been communicating quite frequently about this project, and recently the site inspection and the checklist was signed off for the new septic system. So,
Yeah, well, actually, for the barn septic system, the septic tank in the barn itself.
yeah.
The house was already previous years approved. So, yeah, so it's all wrapped up. Just a little concern about not being able to see mature vegetation, but that is a condition we put on all of the certificates that are mostly in the winter, and this has been a winter for snow, so we'll just wait for the snow to melt. But as noted, the issue is, where do we consider the bedrooms? And that's up for the board to decide and review tonight.
Okay, so
Yeah, go ahead.
go ahead. Go ahead, Mark.
Well, I was saying it might be helpful to look through the house plans, the proposed, and the barn.
Yeah, I could walk you through this if you wanted
Yeah,
to.
and that way we can try to do the counts, the bedroom count and the total room count.
Sounds good. Mr. Lynn, would you like to go ahead and walk us through?
So that's the first floor. There should be a page before that of the basement. There we go.
Basement.
One large basement area.
And there's
It
a
has
full bath.
it's not a bulkhead. It's what we call a doghouse in the business. It's a concrete stairs that go up with 4 walls and an exterior door. It's a little fancier than a bulkhead, if you will. And there's a full bath down that area and down in that right-hand corner. So I think in the eyes of what Mark was telling me, that was one or could be considered as 1 bedroom.
Correct. Yes.
If we page up to the first floor area, we have a guest bedroom off onto the right side of the home. Or currently, right now, it's our client's primary bedroom. We're going to be proposing that becomes a guest bedroom. Either way, it's a bedroom. Here's our second floor with 3 front bedrooms. off to the left, it shows our proposed second floor addition over the existing garage, which is going to be the new primary suite, full bath, walk-in closet. We continue turning the page, we'll see.
This is the last page I have. I might be missing part of it. I can double check to see if I'm missing part of it. But that's the last.
Maybe we jumped through the barn. I'll have the page
okay.
back. That page also shows us our our two additions on the first floor that we're proposing. That's the barn we're looking at currently. We have our two rear additions. If you want to pause there, I'll explain that real quick. It's a family room addition off the current living. It's wide open. There's a slight hall to the left that leads us to a proposed home office. And through the hall and down the stairs is an extension of the garage. It's a shed area, if you will, storage of hockey equipment and some overflow of bikes that our clients have, just need a little more storage. Now, if we go back
Right
to
now, I see, I wouldn't count the storage behind the garage unless it's beautifully finished off. But if it's garage-like, I would not count that as a room, and so I would see 6 rooms here. The office, yes, there. The kitchen, and living, it is labeled separately, so that is not one room to me.
Yeah, I didn't count it either when I was doing a room count. I counted that floor plan for the proposed as the sunroom is 1. Let me see how you started numbering them. Okay, we'll start over at the office as 1, the kitchen as 2, the family room is 3, and we didn't include the kitchen, but the kitchen is 2, and then the kitchen's a little more right over a little bit, and then we can keep the 2 there. 4 would be the kitchen and the living room we got, and then you have a guest bedroom would be the 5th room. And then you have that sunroom, which is has air conditioning and heat and so forth. So that's where the 6 rooms came on the first floor for proposed. And then the 4 proposed up on the second floor. Originally, it was 3 bedrooms going to 4. So there's 10. And then it's on how we look at the barn, but I was calling the barn basically those additional rooms. And you got to go back to the minutes and see how they looked at the barn back then too. Like I say, there's some really, really interesting history here. And so that's why I brought it to the board, is trying to figure out, you'll see back then they looked at the barn. Yeah, there we go. Thank you. Whoever's doing that, thank you to help highlight that. And so that's why I think it would be good to look at the barn as well to see what you have there. Right now, the barn has those stalls and a kitchen on the first floor and and I walked through it just about 3 weeks ago with Dennis, the owner, and it has an upstairs half bath and pretty much wide open area. One area, part of it is like a little family area, family room, and the other area in the front is more like an office. So but it is one open room, just so the board knows. Where it says 11 there, that's pretty much an open room with the little half bath to the side. So in the downstairs,
I wouldn't call it a bedroom, but I would call it a room.
Yeah, and that's what I was asking the board to review, is to see how you would look at that. And that's fine.
And I would also count the room on the kitchenette, unless that's extraordinarily rustic. That I assume would be a room,
Yeah.
unless it's open studs and something else more barn-like, but
Yeah, it's kind of just an open room, and then you got the four stalls, which it's a beautiful barn. I mean, they were using that in the past through the minutes. The proposal was to use them as dog grooming and keep the dogs in those stalls. But they're beautiful. It's nice wood and everything. It's a beautiful barn. But the reason it was brought to the board tonight is, whereas is there any capacity for anything else to happen in the barn to keep those open stalls? They can go up to 13 rooms. I counted proposed in the existing house as having and the barn is having a total of 13 rooms. The house 11
yeah,
and 2 rooms in the
yeah,
barn, if the board sees it the same way.
yeah. I came up with 13 as well
Yeah.
already,
We
which is
missed a
at the
room in,
limit for a
yeah,
6-bedroom system.
yeah. We missed a room in the
And it's,
house. I don't know. Sorry, Daryl. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh, no, I was going to say it's, given that the guidance that we received from DEP came out after 2019,
Yeah.
it is difficult to undo that. I don't know how long their intention was that. You know, you could not use the capacity from the garbage grinder.
Yeah. I think within a year of that time, Daryl, the DEP told us that could no longer be an option.
Yep.
So that's what I brought it to the board for, to figure out the barn. Is it to be considered 2 rooms and remain that way? And, we may get further proposals someday on this, and especially the barn, and consider the proposed room count for the house, which if you're counting the basement as a bedroom, you would go to 6 bedrooms and a total of 11 rooms in the house, and the barn would have the 2 rooms, the kitchen and the second floor open area.
So
And
right now, though, the proposal that they want to do is to add the office, the family room, and the additional ensuite bedroom on the second floor.
yes,
That's
that is
correct?
correct. That's
Right.
correct, Daryl.
Okay.
Yes.
So right now, it seems okay to me.
Yeah, I would agree. I think they're also looking for a little more delineation just to know what kind of bandwidth they have going forward, right?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And if they go with this proposal and the board considers the 2 rooms in the barn, they're at their end of the bandwidth. They're at their maximum 13, and they could move rooms around down the road or come back to the board, but I didn't mean to interrupt, Julie. Go ahead.
Oh, no, no. I just wanted to kind of add a little color to what the question is. So I would fully agree that for the proposed, that's 6 rooms or 1 bedroom and 1 bedroom. On the second floor of the proposed, that's 4 bedrooms and 4 rooms, so 10 rooms total of 5 bedrooms. Going to the basement room, obviously that is a room that brings us up to 11 with the basement. The question is that basement room constituting a bedroom?
Correct.
Sarah, why don't we go there first, because we're going to talk about the main house before we then go to the barn, because the main house is also where the current work's being proposed. So
Yes.
it looks like, Mr. Lynn, can you identify the points of egress in this room? Oh, hang on, let's get back to the map.
Down to the basement.
Yes, in
Yes,
the
in the
basement.
basement.
We're particularly interested in windows, how big they are, how far is this basement below grade?
It's a full story. It's as you can see, the bulkhead that I spoke about earlier is what, 7 or 8 steps to get back up to grade. The windows are relatively normal basement. I think the sizes are there. There's one in the full bath, like 27 by 23. They're very tiny, normal cellar windows, if you will.
Okay,
And that's the only way up is the main staircase that brings us up to the first floor.
okay, yeah. And this full bath, it looks like what I'm having trouble kind of telling is the full bath. Is this like a very small, short hallway immediately outside of the full bath? Or does it feel pretty open? I see the stairwell comes down kind of right around that bathroom. I just can't tell if it's closed
It
off.
is a pretty wide hallway that leads to that set of stairs to the exterior.
Okay.
And because the dimension, what, it's 5'9" in width, so it's pretty open.
Okay.
So I have a couple of issues. If you're done, Julie, with your
No, I think what
question.
the fact that we're talking about a nice bulkhead, but more or less a bulkhead. The fact that we have these short slider windows that does not provide egress, that starts to lend itself to, potential deed restriction for a bedroom. But the fact there's a full bath down there, and I guess what I'm trying to figure out is if this is enough of a hallway to say that it does not open directly into this room. And that's relevant, Mr. Lynn, because our regulations say that any room that has a full bath opening directly into it is a bedroom.
So
Go ahead, Daryl.
because of the isolation of this space together, separate from other, rooms going off of rooms, it reads to me, if it was up on the second floor, I would call it a bedroom for sure. There is a question about the windows. 27 by 23 is larger than a standard basement window, which is more like a foot, 2 feet by.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That is
20,
27 by 13. Now that it's blown up, I can see that dimension a little bit.
Okay. All right.
Just over a foot.
Then that becomes, that gets more difficult. But I would still feel much better about this not having a full bath, because we have to look at these plans and structures as to how people in the future might use it. And anyone who would see this kind of setup, it could be an au pair or an in-law apartment. Doesn't matter whether it meets the code for egress, which I'm nervous about having people sleep down there, but that's a concern. If it was a half bath, I would be okay with deed recording it to never be a bedroom. But I don't know that you're still at the upper bound of the room count, whether it's called a bedroom or not. So it's almost a moot point whether it's a bedroom, designated as a bedroom or not. If it was only the 12th room, then it would be an issue.
I would agree. I'm sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say, I would, it's a stretch to potentially deed record this as to not be a bedroom. I agree with that, Daryl. If it was a half bath, it'd be a different situation, but go ahead, Mr. Lind.
We're just talking about future use as far as
Yeah.
the proposed and what we're trying to build for our client is fine with you all. We're just trying right now, you're trying to look in the future
Yeah.
as far as room count goes.
And so really how we look at this basement space will influence what kind of bandwidth you have to do work in the barn. Is that correct? Yeah.
That's the way I see it, Julie. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean if it was deed recorded to not count towards the room count?
Well, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Julie, if they decide to do something different in the barn,
Yes, if they
that
were
could
going to
affect the
change the
room.
barn.
Yep, could affect the room count, could affect the bedroom count, and we're back to looking at the house again because we're looking at a campus here versus just one house. But if I'm wrong, Julie, correct me.
No, that's how I'm understanding it too. So I think,
excuse me.
So I think, Daryl, there's kind of two parts.
Question is whether the second floor room in the barn could become a bedroom. And yes, you would want to make this not look like a bedroom. which it shouldn't have, and a full bath connected to it in the basement here.
Yeah, and I think that's where I'm landing too, that if there was an appetite to convert the barn over to say like a one bedroom ADU or a small apartment or anything along those lines, then in order to stay within the 6 bedroom current design flow, I would be inclined to say you need to turn that basement bathroom into a half bathroom, because then we could comfortably deed record that to not be a bedroom, which would give you the bedroom capacity to potentially add that 6 bedroom to the barn.
And if I can add, Julie, the homeowners here, so they're listening in. It just sets a guideline for the future. But there's one thing that was mentioned in the minutes that I mentioned. They could always add on to the septic system because it was built in 1990 after the 1995 code allowed. I mean, when the 1995 code changed, it allows them to add on to the septic system. So there's another opportunity if you know they're not just locked into this if they wish to add on to the septic system leaching field. So there's a few options that are going on. So I know they're not doing anything with the barn at this time, but at least they know the direction they can go in, and that's another option.
Yeah, and that's an option that a lot of people don't get to have on their property. The fact that
True.
there's enough acreage on this property, the fact that it is uh, a a conforming system, post 95 system. It even looks like in the minutes that there had been soil testing done, and that there were no
Yeah.
maybe soil testing done in the potential expansion area. I mean, you could fairly easily add a couple of trenches to be able to increase your design flow.
That
In
is
which
true.
case you could, leave your basement as is and convert over your barn to have again ADU or whatever your potential use case would be. But you could then add that bedroom flow in there. That flexibility is not something we see often.
Yeah, very fortunate, actually. That's
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
great to know.
Good soil is not something you see when you buy a house. Um, do we want to go hang on, before we move on from the basement room and then just go to the barn, just for clarification there, for any future plans? Any board members have any different opinions than what Daryl and I have expressed about this basement space as not being able to deed record it as not a bedroom with the full bath? I'm not hearing any differences of opinion on that. Okay, so I think that speaks for the majority.
And just
Sarah?
for labeling, this is a bedroom. You're counting this as a bedroom.
I think, yeah, at this time, we would consider that to be a bedroom with the layout of the full bath. And the reduction of that bath to a half bath would, it sounds like, if the rest of the board is in agreement, it sounds like would then allow the board to deed record that to not be a bedroom, but it would still be a room in the room count. Not as relevant, I think, for what they're looking to do, though. So I think we want to go over, I think we're good on the proposed first and second floor of the main house. I think they just want a little commentary on the barn. Is that right, Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Um, yeah, and so I would agree with this is 2 rooms as the stands for the barn. Any board members feel with the existing conditions, these are existing conditions. Any board members count this differently than 2 rooms in this barn? Board members, please just speak up. Don't worry about raising your hands.
I think I'm good. I understand it.
Sounds good.
The whole thing's been kind of tough to follow along. There's a lot going on with this house and barn.
Yeah, just to help, the lower level, one kitchen, and open stalls. It looks like a barn. You walk in and it definitely looks like a beautiful barn, but no finished walls or anything. It's all open.
Oh,
You could bring
okay.
in 4 horses and they'd love it there. And then upstairs, one large room. So that's why I I presented it the way I see it as 2 rooms.
Okay. All right, thanks, Mark.
You're welcome.
And for me, the fact that this is not the second floor room. So what we have always said is if you have a room on the second floor, but it is accessible through an unconditioned or unfinished space, like a room over a garage kind of a situation, that can be considered not a bedroom. And I think, well, this is a little bit of a stretch of that interpretation. It would still fall in that category for me.
And that's the way I saw it too.
Yeah.
And it also does not have a full bath. That would change
Yep.
if it had a full bath.
Completely agree. So if that bathroom were made to a full bath, then I think we'd have to look at that as a bedroom, regardless of what would happen on the first floor. And certainly if the first floor was to be changed over to make that open space living with, remove the kennels and make it intended for human habitation, then yeah, definitely becomes an apartment ADU. Other board members on, again, they're not proposing any changes to this floor and space, but I'm understanding that they're just trying to understand what options they have if they decide to in the future.
Mhm.
Correct.
Okay. I'm not seeing any other comments from board members. So I think, Mark, is that everything that we were reviewing?
Yes, and I
Mhm.
appreciate your direction on this because it is complicated. And I see no problem if they wish to submit a building application as shown tonight. And they have some direction if they ever want to, like you said, change maybe the barn to an ADU, an accessory dwelling unit, or
Mhm.
look at adding on to the septic system or considering a half bath in the basement. And I just want to, and that's why I brought it to the board, want to make sure I reviewed it with you and the applicants and their builder prior to giving them that next. It was submitted as a preliminary building application, and they really needed some direction. I needed some direction as well. And I think at this point, if the board, it sounds like their next step would be to submit a building application as long as it follows the plans provided, that it would be okay with the conditions just noted, with all the notices that were just mentioned.
So, Mark, I was trying to remember if we've ever had a case where the as you know, as was corrected, the basement windows do sound like the small basement windows, no egress for them, no reasonable egress. And if there are no windows that are larger down there, sometimes we have deed recorded and not included rooms in the room count when they were also unfinished, maybe partially.
Yeah.
So I know we've had workshops where the ceiling
Yes.
wasn't finished, and so we
Yep.
have permitted those to be deed recorded. But have we ever had this kind of, it's not quite a standard bulkhead, but it is still a walk up, it's not, I don't think it's as many steps as you would normally need to go a whole story and get up to ground level if the basement was fully buried.
I'd have to
Sounds
look
like
back.
something in between
It
the
is, it
two, which
is.
is a little perplexing.
Yes. And again, that's
But
why I
it is
brought it to
still
the
an
board.
easy walkout.
Yeah, I believe the one that comes to mind, and I'd have to look at the minutes and how it was reviewed and decided on, was one of the units at 59 North Main Street. We had one of these kind of
Mhm.
stairways that a few years back, but that's the only one that comes to mind. But, and if they ever do wish to come back to add more rooms or bedrooms or whatever, we would probably be able to go to some of the other properties that we looked at like this,
Mhm.
if that helps.
Yeah, we can do some more research on that if needed.
We should check in
The gray area.
before we wrap this up. We just want to make sure that if the homeowners have any questions or if they're all set.
Rick, I don't know if Dennis wants to comment. If not, I know you're representing him.
Yeah, I think he's going to chime in.
I just
Okay.
want to
Yeah,
make
no.
sure all the questions are answered.
Yes.
Nope, questions are answered. I appreciate everybody's time thinking through this and looking through the information here. So thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
And then if you think of anything else, certainly come back and ask Mark, and if he can't answer it right away, we'll bring it back to the board and we'll go through it.
So if I come to you with a proposal for a hockey rink, so that I don't have to drive as far for all the storage.
Well, we're going to need
would that
another
be-
septic system, Dennis.
There won't be
And you
any
best go,
there
best
won't be
go
any
to zoning
bathrooms.
first. I'm sorry. Best go to zoning.
All we can say is if you set it up outside, don't put it on top of your leaching field. It's a
No.
guaranteed way
No.
to kill that fast.
Duly noted. No, I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I have the consensus of the board. The next step, Rick, would be the building permit. Request a building permit, and that will get to our office for review. And if you follow the same plans that we saw tonight, you should be a go.
That's great. Appreciate your help, Mark, and board members. It's always great to work in Sherborn. Appreciate your help.
Thank you so
Great.
much.
Thank you so much. Have a nice evening.
Yep. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. All right. I do not. Do we have anyone else waiting for another topic? I don't believe so. Am I correct? Okay, good. Let's see. We have administrator updates. Sarah, do you want us to take that next, or do you want us to jump down to the other food permits? What do you feel like?
Get the food permits out of the way. That would be
Okay.
my suggestion.
Sure, sounds good. And then we'll come back up to the administrator's updates. Okay, so for food permits, we have annual, these are all renewals, I believe.
Yes.
Yes, okay. We have 3 renewal applications, one for One Bite Sweet, which would require a sodium posting of 32.6 milligrams a liter. One for Cousins Maine Lobster, and the amended item for Pine Hill Elementary School. No sodium posting would be necessary for this property because it's under our required. Mark or Sarah, were there any concerns or conditions expressed by Tom?
Can you say that again? There's no sodium posting required where? At the school?
At the school, it's 11 milligrams per liter. The threshold's 20. Our regulations require sodium postings over 20 milligrams,
That's correct.
and 11 is less than 20.
Yeah, no, thanks. Just wanted to make sure I was hearing you correctly.
And Cousins Made of Lobster is a mobile, that's a mobile
That is,
food truck, is that right? But they have,
that's correct as well. Yes.
but they
they have-
come back to the same location multiple times. Yeah.
They've been at Dows's before. And they come into our city too, the city of Marlborough at Trombetta's. So they travel quite a bit, and they're well known too. But they've been around for a while.
Okay.
As for conditions, I would say the only conditions I can think of is One Bite Sweet. They need to amend their food labels to have their address on it, which was brought to their attention at the most recent inspection, which was yesterday evening. And Cousins Maine Lobster has their pre-operational inspection next week. I believe it's either next week or the week after. And they are required to have a propane permit from the fire department as well.
And they have not received that.
No, I do believe that they're doing the inspections in conjunction with one another, so they should be happening on the same day.
Okay, that makes sense. And you need that over a certain volume of propane, right?
42 liters.
42, okay. Okay, so why don't we parse these out individually since there's a couple of unique conditions. So do I have a motion to approve the food permit for 2026 for One Bite Sweet. Conditional 2, a sodium posting of 32.6 milligrams a liter. That they amend their food labels to include their address. And 3, conditional to all applicable, compliance with all applicable laws.
So moved.
Seconded.
Discussion? Hearing none?
Daryl Beardsley, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Do I have a motion to approve the 2026 food establishment permit for Cousins Maine Lobster? Conditional 2, there's 3 conditions. 1, a passing inspection by the food inspector. 2, the receipt of their propane permit from the fire department. And 3, compliance with all applicable laws.
So moved.
Seconded.
Discussion? Hearing none.
Daryl Beardsley, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
And next, do I have a motion to approve the 2026 food establishment permit for Pine Hill Elementary School? They've passed their inspection, Sarah. I forgot to ask that. Has Tom gotten out there to inspect? Mark or Sarah, does anyone know if Tom has been out to Pine Hill for inspection, or is that pending?
I do not know, but I would base it on past inspections, and I'm sure future ones would be also, it would be just a normal process. So if Tom hasn't gotten out there, obviously it should be, a permit would get removed if they're not complying with the law, especially repetitive, but I don't think we've ever seen any issues with Pine Hill. I used to inspect it as well, never saw any issues, but
Okay.
that was many years ago.
Okay. Conditional to a past inspection and compliance with all applicable laws. So 2 conditions.
So moved.
Seconded.
Discussion? Hearing none?
Daryl Beardsley, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
All right, I think that's all 3 food permits. Yes, excellent. Now let's go up to administrator updates. Sarah, your choice, which one you want to take first?
I will go ahead with I mean, how much does everyone want to think right now? Would it be better to do the longer one first or the shorter one first?
I think it's your call. We're going to think about it one way or another. So,
Okay. I will start the MRC update. Sorry.
if you need a second, we can also skip down and just go over the meeting minutes, but that's going to probably involve you too. So
Sorry, I was finishing chewing. So the Medical Reserve Corps unit is currently not as active as we would like it to be in Sherborn. A little bit of background information on our unit. There are 10 towns that make up the Middle Folk MRC unit. It's Ashland, Dover, Framingham, Holliston, Hopkinton, Medfield, Millis, Norfolk, Wrentham, and Sherborn. And there's an advisory board that consists of representatives from each town, and they meet once a month, including myself, to discuss unit activities and things that are coming up, and specifically if one community may need the unit for support for anything going on. One example is in Framingham, they're doing hearing clinics at the school, and the MRC unit has been deployed to those clinics to sort of run administrative processes there and help with intake and things like that. So currently the unit, there is a statewide training for all MRC volunteers on March 3rd. Ashland is hosting a Stop the Bleed training for the MRC volunteers on March 18th. And currently within the advisory board, we're planning a tabletop exercise for representatives from each town for emergency planning to review sheltering procedures and just make sure that everyone has the most up-to-date sheltering procedures. And the reason that I'm bringing this update to the board today is because it's been brought to my attention that our retention is very low in Sherborn and we don't have a high participation rate. So we'll be implementing recruitment efforts on the website, through our social media platforms, through postings in town hall and the library. And if anybody has any suggestions as to how we can best get the word out to people, that would be greatly appreciated. And we are working with our unit coordinator to make sure the most recent query form, we have it in the office so people can just easily sign up. Because for the MRC query form, I am authorized to affirm it basically and send it over to our coordinator who will process it for volunteers. So this update is to serve as sort of a, if you're interested in joining, let me know as members of the board. And if you have any questions about MRC and what they're doing right now you can let me know. And if you have any suggestions as to how we can best get the word out to people in town to sign up if they're interested, I'm working with the fire department because they have a much larger social media reach in town. They also are running community trainings each quarter. So hopefully we'll get some interest there as well. As in the library with some of the parenting panels that are coming up, which is something that the library is running right now. We'll be able to get some interested folks.
Can you just, I don't actually know this, for volunteers for the MRC, are there specific skill sets, certifications, requirements that they're looking for, or just able-bodied, willing people with a clean background?
Pretty much just able-bodied, willing people with a clean background. You do have to take ICS 100, I think. There's a couple different levels of a volunteer you can be, but all of the training they completely, so
And is there an age requirement?
18, I think.
Okay.
We have been talking about potentially doing something with the high school, but there's a little bit more logistics that go into that because it was something that we know have been offered in other high schools where you can get volunteer credit hours for volunteering for things like the blood drive or other things like that. But again, it's more, it requires more logistics.
Yeah. I think if you ever decided to go down that route, I imagine that there might be a small handful of high school students who would be interested, especially if they imagine themselves going in any type of emergency response or even potentially medical background. It would look good in college
And
applications.
there are the community service hours that high schoolers do.
40.
If that's still a program.
It's still a program. Graduation requirement, 40 hours. I know this well.
Couple other options for, I don't know, for finding folks. One is using, periodically the town will post where there are openings on various boards and committees, and perhaps MRC can be added to that. I don't know if there's still the records around from COVID early on. There were a number of people who signed up, new folks who had never been on the MRC before, to participate. And again, because COVID was so overwhelming for all public health agencies, the state was not able to process any of the applications that were rolling in during that time period. So there were a number of people who were disappointed that they didn't get in at that time, more for administrative reasons. And the other would be, I don't know, I think our numbers shrunk a fair amount from people moving out of town, or, you know, generally retiring from various things. So I don't know that we can really seek them out again any longer. But if one can tap into some of the networks of people who have participated in things in town, I would think COA might be a good route. Find folks who are perhaps doctors and nurses in the past who might have some interest, although that's certainly not required.
Sarah, did they give an estimate of the kind of annual time commitment?
No,
Is it is there
it's
a
kind of, it's, you
mandatory
don't have
minimum
to,
or
no, you
okay,
never have to. It's always volunteer.
okay. In that case, I will say at our Pine Hill School, every week the Community School Association puts out a newsletter that goes to all families. So that's our students make up what about a tenth of the population. Well, that's between all the schools, but so I can give you the link for the communications so that you could actually, there's a whole community, what's going on in the community or how to get involved in the community section. And then you could put kind of a standing notice in there for even the remainder of the school year. That might be of interest, especially it's a great way to catch families who have recently moved into town because lots of families with young kids are also new to town. So I'll pass that on to you. Just have to remind me.
Yes, that will be very helpful. Thank you.
And I just have one question, Sarah. And I know when I was in Ashland, we had the same issues, retention. And it's when the state took over registration. People did not want to work for more than their town. Do you know offhand if the states recognize that issue? Because it did cause the same issues, retention. Has the state improved the registration process, and are they doing a better job trying to make sure that it's more of a local volunteer than statewide?
It's not statewide, I know that, because it's within our unit. So if there were any requirements for MRC at any time that were in specifically Ashland, Dover, Framingham, Holliston, Hopkinton, Medfield, Millis, Norfolk, and Rentham, then our volunteers could go, but they would never be asked to go anywhere outside of those areas unless there was a major emergency. And again, it's not ever a requirement for them to go. And the reason that they did it across all the towns is so that there's more variety of people who might be able to respond to anything. So they would never really be asked to go anywhere outside of those 9 additional towns.
Excellent, because that was a concern. The
So,
other one was
Mhm.
just registration at the state level was a mess.
Yeah,
And I hope they've improved that because that was it turned people off, you know.
I don't know what the registration process used to look like, but I know now they come in, they fill out their forms,
Yeah.
and I send them directly to our unit coordinator. There's one person for all 10 towns, and she processes all of the information. And then that, I believe, will then go to our region MRC coordinator. And he's a great guy, super easy to get in touch with and get in contact with. And he's local, he lives in Well. He's very reachable and always willing to help out as well.
Excellent. That's going to make a world of difference, I think. You'll hopefully MRCs will improve just from what you said. Thank you.
Mhm.
okay, and just to be clear, it sounds like if there was a call for, say, people to go to Rentham, if people didn't want to drive the hour each way, they could decline the
Yes.
opportunity? Okay, so I think making that clear, because there are people who like the idea of going far and wide and meeting new people and doing things in different places, and others who do not. So as long as that could be made clear in whatever kind of outreach is done, that would probably help attract people both ways to know that there are both options, both ends of the spectrum.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you for that update, Sarah. You want to move to the the proposed permit fees.
Sure thing. So, I have a lot of information that I'm going to share, and I just want to get through a good chunk of it because I know we've already discussed this a fair amount. So I want to just get through as much as I can, and if you have questions, please save them for the end, I guess, or if they're like incredibly pressing, let me know. But I feel as though everything kind of comes in to play eventually. So I'm just going to pull up the fees here.
While Sarah does that, I'll remind the board that this is a kind of a timely matter in that we would like to have this revised fee schedule approved prior to kind of the finalizing of the FY27 budget. And we were at our last meeting, we had planned, and I'm not sure if we're still on track for that, but I think we are, to hold a public hearing on our March 4th. No, that's not March 4th. Yep, March 4th meeting date. To invite public comment about the proposed changes, in which case there's a notification period that we have to have in advance. So our goal tonight is to iron out the final proposed fee changes.
Yes. So I would like to do this in a very streamlined manner. I'm going to review all of the fees. Specifically, I'll be addressing the ones that are changing, and then I will go through how we got to these numbers, and then I will explain any new fees that we have and what those mean and what those indicate. And before I do that, I want to let everybody know that this has not been just me. Mark and Jean have been incredibly helpful and instrumental in giving their feedback and helping with the whole process. It's been a lot of back and forth. I can't tell you how many versions of this document I have made. Tom has been incredibly involved as well whenever he can, and it's been everybody's been involved. So I just thank you so much to everyone who was able to help out with that. And also reaching out to certain individuals at MEHB to understand if it's a regulatory process or not. Just a lot of people were involved in this. So, okay. These are the fees. So the well fee will be increasing to $500. You do see on the list that the well repair fee actually decreases. However, the amount of well repairs that we get in a year is little to none. In 2025, we had 0 well repair applications. They were all either new wells or well replacements. And so that decrease isn't going to have a major impact on our revenue stream. However, the $210 is far more reflective of the time that is spent addressing a well repair or deepening of the well. The soil testing is increasing $70, and you'll see that there is a note, and I will address that in a moment after reviewing the remainder of the fees. So D-box replacements increasing to $140, repair and replacement of tank increasing to $290. Here you see the more than 3 construction inspections is decreasing quite significantly. It's decreasing about $110. Again, this is not a fee that we see a lot, and it's not going to have a major impact on our revenue stream. However, the $140 is far more reflective of the time that takes to actually complete 3 construction inspections. You'll see here, additional bedroom over 4 is increasing to $120. And the 4th or more plan revisions is decreasing to $260. It's also decreasing up here to $240. Again, not something we see a lot in our fees that we're bringing in for revenue. And these numbers are just far more reflective of the actual amount of time that is spent administratively and on the agent side to review these plans at that stage in the process. So nothing down here is changing here. Transfer and renewal remains the same. The local regulations is increasing to 180, Title V to 200. And we have this new fee for both variances for $250. And that's for two reasons. The first being that previously, if they have two variances, one for local regulations and one for Title V, historically, we've only been charging them for the Title V variances. However, it's not reflective of the amount of work that has to go into addressing both variances, especially just the amount of time additionally it takes in the agent review process and the administrative process and the Board of Health meeting process. So the $250 really captures that and will compensate more for time in that manner. Similarly with the IA review fee, this is a very common fee that we see around in towns where they have an increased fee for innovative technology plans and reviewing those. Some towns will even require a separate application to use innovative technology, and those fees range anywhere from an additional $100 or sorry, an additional $50 to an additional $500. We saw it across the board, and the amount of time on average that it takes, because with some systems, we're very familiar with how they work. They don't require an exuberant additional amount of time to review. However, some systems obviously do require additional time to review, and we're not as familiar, they're not as common. They require us to reach out to our contacts in the state and our local colleagues and peers. So we felt that the $75 kind of captured the varying applications, because we can't exactly say we're going to charge for certain technologies and not for other technologies. We have to keep it as even as possible. The disposal works installer permit initial is $200, and the initial permit fee captures the fact that for installers, when they're new to town, we have to contact references, which just takes more time and costs more of working hours to do. And so an initial permit is someone who's never worked in Sherborn. There's no statute of limitations on that. So if they worked in town 10 years ago or 20 years ago and they're simply coming back for whatever reason or renewing their permit, they will be considered a renewal and not an initial. So that's the initial is they've never worked in town before, and it can be either a company or an individual who's applying for the permit when we would review their references. So these fees here, the permit to operate a tanning facility initial opening has decreased. Again, this is not a permit that we issue. We have not historically, in all of the permits that I've reviewed for Sherborn data, have not issued a tanning facility permit. And so decreasing it to accurately reflect the amount of work that goes into reviewing a tanning facility won't have a direct impact on our revenue stream. And Mark told me in his time in Ashland, he did have to permit a few different facilities. And he explained to me the amount of time and effort that goes into it, the impact of an additional bed, and we updated all of those fees to accurately reflect the amount of time that goes into permitting these establishments. Similar to the explanation of the tanning facility, permit fee decrease is the body art establishment fee decrease. It's simply more reflective of the amount of work that's going into these permit fees or to these applications. And these are some pretty significant jumps for the public swimming pool and hot tub permit, the recreational camp permit, and the 10-day emergency beaver or muskrat permit. And again, it all has to do with the amount of time it takes for our agents to conduct inspections. For a public swimming pool, it's multiple inspections a year. They have to be continuously monitoring the pool, making sure that all of the levels are accurate and up to date. And it can take a lot of man hours going back and making sure that everything is within code. It's a severe safety concern for the public. And so we want to make sure that our fee is representative of the amount of work that our agent has to do in order to make sure that that is safe for the public. Same for the recreational camp. That is many, 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 many man hours for both our food and camp inspector and our public health nurse. Our public health nurse has to commit upwards of 3 to 4 hours, depending on the size of the camp, to actually review all of the necessary information, procedures, policies, and things like that. Again, just to ensure the utmost safety. And for beavers and muskrats, we have agents. Our agent, Mark, goes out and he has to survey the area. He has to be in contact with the homeowner if it's at a home, if it's on public property, or if someone else reported it and it's on private property. We have to get in contact with them that way. We have to fill out data sheets. There's a lot that goes into reviewing these permits. We have to be in contact with the actual contractor who is going to address the beaver issue. There's a lot of moving parts that were not captured in the $50 permit fee. And I'm going to skip food permits for right now, and I'm going to go to building permit application reviews. Again, these are quite different from what we're seeing now. I've run these by Chris Canny and Jeannie Guthrie as to how they feel about them, considering they do majority of the building permit applications, or they process every building permit application. We only process the ones that come to us. And some of them can take many hours, up to days of review. And some are simply just a scan of the application, making sure that nothing's encroaching on the septic system and impacting the health of the people that live there. So we wanted to make sure that that was reflective. However, we are going to be keeping the 2% clause. So any building permit application that comes in, that if 2% of that fee, of the fee that they have to pay, is greater than the Board of Health fee, then they will pay 2% of their fee. So for example, if they are submitting a pool and their building permit fee for their private pool is greater than, I'm blanking on what 2% is, but that's the situation. Generally, in the past, pools have cost applicants, in terms of the Board of Health review fee, it's about $100. And we want to make sure that that continues to be reflected in our work, because we don't want to lose money here. We're trying to increase our revenue and while still keeping in line with our previous alignments, if you will. Okay. The food establishments. So we have 2 new ones, or we have, I guess, 4 new food establishment permit fees. And that is the annual establishment, the seasonal establishment for both food service and food retail. And there are now 3 categories of temporary food establishments. This came after a lot of conversations between myself and Jean, and Tom and Mark as well gave great insight as to what goes into a food permit application review. And I've been working with Tom, going on inspections, reviewing inspections, and we feel that this is the most reflective of those. So what's changing the most is a food service establishment that's seasonal. Previously, has only been paying $50. We're increasing that to $250 because it does still require 1 inspection and a remedial inspection if necessary. And it still requires our agent to go out and actually be on site for any amount of time. And the $50 simply doesn't reflect that. Similarly to the food retail establishment that's seasonal, it still requires an inspection. It still requires application review. It still requires whatever plans need to be reviewed. And what our permit fees capture is the cost of 1 inspection every 6 months plus 1 remedial inspection. So, for example, if there is an establishment and they are for the full year, the food code states you are required to do a minimum of 2 inspections every calendar year or 1 inspection every 6 months. However, we recognize in the office that a lot of times there may be a need for a follow-up inspection that only takes 5 to 10 extra minutes out of the day to do because of a minor violation. So our permit fees account for a remedial inspection or a follow-up inspection for each inspection. So the annual fees account for 4 inspections and the seasonal fees are 2 inspections. And that's where we got that information from, just for additional clarity. Same thing goes for the temporary establishments. For made to order, time temperature control for safety foods, it's a bit of a longer inspection. You have to look at holding temperatures, you have to look at cooking temperatures, you have to look at facilities. So that's the $60. Pre-prepared, time controlled, sensitive for safety foods is going to remain at $50. And non-TCS food is going to decrease at $35. And that's because those food permits, for if they're not providing samples, they actually don't even need a permit. So it's only if they're giving out samples. And in that scenario, it's a very quick inspection and a plan review. And so $50 is not encompassing the amount of time it actually takes to do those reviews. And a majority of the applications that we get are not for that type of food permit and will not qualify under that type of food permit. And so the increase in the additional permit fees for our seasonal establishments and our made to order temporary food establishments will account for the differences there, plus some. So we wanted to make sure that we were keeping everything fair and keeping everything in line with one another as well. The ice cream manufacturing, that requires a lot of review administratively. We get, water test results where we have to make sure that they're cleaning their machines properly. It's just more work than $25 is encompassing. And residential kitchens, same thing as the issue that we were seeing with the seasonal establishments, is that they too require one inspection every 6 months and a remedial inspection if required. Residential kitchens have less infrastructure to actually inspect, so the inspections themselves don't take as long. And so they don't take as long, and hence the lower permit fee. So
Sherry?
yeah.
Sorry, I just had a real quick question. On the ice cream manufacturer, does Tom actually test the ice cream? Does he take a sample and have it tested?
No, he does look at the machine parts of everything. So
But
Mark
he
will
doesn't
be
take a
able to
sample.
answer that question more
Yeah,
because I haven't been
I can
there.
help a little bit, Sarah, on that. So CNL Frosty is the ice cream manufacturer at this point. It's soft
Right.
serve. And they're required to submit monthly reports, and the food inspector needs to review those reports. And obviously, he'll look at the equipment when he does his regular inspection, but there's that monthly report that he needs to review as well. And if it's not in compliance, he has to make sure additional testing is taken immediately and the machine's shut down. So there's some work on that overview of the lab reports, if
Okay.
that helps.
All right. I'm just thinking back when we had our ice cream place in Brighton, and the city of Boston required they would come in and take a sample. I think it was pretty much every quarter, and then
Yeah.
send it off to be tested.
The larger cities like Boston, even the city of Marlborough used to do some testing because they had the lab. But in most cases, it's done by a private entity, a private lab. They'll come in and take a sample once a month and do the testing that way.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And for the food permits, there are 2 that did not make this list for some reason, and that is the new establishment review fee, which we calculated to be $150, just because it requires, again, it all has to do with the amount of work that goes into reviewing these and pre-operational inspections. Because our establishment permits don't account for pre-operational inspection. For a new establishment, you have to conduct a pre-operation inspection. It's a requirement. And also, for some reason that didn't make this, is any mobile food was on here. I don't know where that one went. Let me just quickly pull that up because that is another new fee. I'm sorry, just one second. Um, Oh, here it is. Sorry. Don't know why that didn't make that. Here we go. The mobile food service fee is $100 for seasonal, and for annual is $200. And then we also have a reinspection fee that we'll be implementing for anything that is over the 4 included inspections of $80. I'm just realizing now that this isn't being shared. So sorry. So I would say ignore these two. Let me just delete those. So yes, okay, here we go. These are all the food permit fees. These are not right though. Okay, there. Okay. Sorry, I don't know why those were not included. I can go over these a little bit more too, the reinspection fee, but it is all outlined in the notes section. And so each definition is outlined in the notes section. And as I mentioned, the soil testing note is we sat down and really wanted to define what a site is and what the $370 fee incorporates. And it is 3 deep test pits and 2 stabilized percolation tests in the proposed leaching area. And if ledge is encountered, it is 5 deep test pits rather than 3. And so Mark and I kind of sat for a while to talk about the logistics of this today is, when is it an additional hole versus when is it a new site? And so what we kind of came up with is that I'm going to draw it here. So if this is the hypothetical test site,
I think I'm seeing food establishments right now.
oh no.
I'm actually seeing the red marker you made, but that's
Yeah, I can
I
see
see
it
the
too.
mark, but it's, yeah.
you're
Same
you're
here.
you're drawing on the actual application fees.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know why that happened. Technical
It was
difficulties. Here we
a good
go.
square.
Thank you.
Pretty
Looks
color
like a
red.
test area.
There we go. Okay.
There we go.
So, oh, now I can't draw on it. Come back. Okay, here we go. All right. So, hypothetically, this is your test area. Now my square's not as good. And then if we have 3,
Deep holes in triangular fashion.
I just want to make sure that you can see them.
Yep, that's fine.
3 deep holes here.
Okay, you're showing a lot then. Yep.
Then we'll have 2 test pits here, or perk tests, I
Work
should
test,
say.
yeah. And that would be the area for the soil absorption area on a lot.
So this would be one site. Now, if they wanted to, if they said that this was no good, right?
Yep. And it chose a new area.
And they went over here for a new deep hole or a new perk, and this is what they ended up doing, this would be one site plus 2 additional holes. However, if the second that they reach the threshold of 5 additional holes, so it would be, or not 5 additional holes, sorry. Once they hit the threshold of 3 additional test pits, 3 additional deep hole test pits, and 2 additional perk tests. Sorry. Once
right.
they hit that threshold, it's a new site.
Correct.
But if they just did this, it's $80 per test hole. And that, again, it's just encompassing the amount of time that is spent on them.
Yes.
And that is how we got there. So now, okay, go away. Okay, how do I make that go away?
It's okay.
Actually, there's an
Yeah, it's not
eraser
bothering
feature.
anything.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, I'm going to show you guys, I wanted to review the calculations next. So that way we all know where I'm getting all these numbers from.
And so Sarah, if
I'd have
somebody
to
had
say,
done,
just in case it shortens it for you, since I had a lot of questions at the last meeting about the fees, but my questions have been greatly reduced with these revised numbers. I still have a couple, but greatly, greatly reduced. So
okay. Things are pulling up now. Perfect. Wonderful. Or they're not. Come on. So the numbers are determined using the hourly rate for all environmental health work in the Board of Health. So just a quick overview, this is essentially the breakdown of the Board of Health budget or the proposed Board of Health budget for FY27 of personnel and different materials and equipment that we use, and the percentage of each personnel's contribution to environmental health, and thus their salary contributions to the environmental health employee salary. And then all this fun math we use to determine the total cost of the environmental health inspectors over 5 fiscal years. Same for the administrative personnel. And then also the environmental health specific operating budget, the department-wide general operating budget, the total department full-time equivalent personnel, the total environmental health full-time equivalent personnel, the average annual vacation for environmental health employees, and then the environmental health percent share of the administrative personnel budget, the environmental health percent share of the general operating budget, the inspector's budget, and then the overall environmental health budget is right here. Calculates the total projected annual work hours for a full-time equivalent employee. And you divide the environmental health budget by the number of environmental health inspectors over the total number of annual work hours. And we determined that on average for environmental health work, it costs the Board of Health $80.85 an hour. So we use that number as $80.85 an hour for both our food establishments and our septic and well fees. And just want to see what you guys are seeing right now. Okay. So what we did is we put all of our permits in this list. We sat down and we determined how long it takes for it to go through the administrative process, the plan review process, if there is a pre-con meeting required, how long the average inspection takes, if there's a Board of Health meeting that's required, and then all of that gets added up, divided by 60, multiplied by the hourly rate, and then we get the calculated fee, and then we round the fee to the nearest $10. So you'll see here there's some discrepancies in this sheet versus what I shared, and that is because I didn't update this to represent 500 on this particular sheet. And some of the permit fees that we calculated that ended up being lower than what our existing fees are, but are a significant impact to our revenue stream. We did not change them, so that's going to be our new construction fees are a little bit lower than what you would think. So we did not update those. Same for the transfer and renewal permit fees. We didn't want to change any of those fees because we felt that it would simply just negatively impact the Board of Health, and we did not want that. And so did the same thing for all of our food permits. administrative. This one was a little bit different. So we did the average inspection time for the type of establishment and the number of inspections that would require per year. So again, for the annual permits, we calculated for 4 inspections. For the seasonal, we did 2. And again, you'll see here, this fee is lower than the existing fee, and we didn't want to reflect that in our new fees. And so we kept the original. And some of these are a little bit lower than rounding to the nearest $10 per se. And that is because we didn't want to be outside of our neighboring towns too much. And we did conduct a surrounding town permit fee review. Specifically about the food permits is what we were really, really looking at here. Where we found $75, $50, mobile food vendor annuals, and this is how we got those numbers. So we reviewed Dover, Medfield, Carlisle, Millis, and Holliston. It's important to note though, Medfields have not been updated since 1998. So that is where we are at. And I think now we can take questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for right now.
I'm sure we'll need some of those things pulled up for questions. Thank you, Sarah. That was very thorough.
Thank you for all the work you put into this. Did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
I think the Board of Health should just vote to enact these changes right now because of extensive research. What do we expect to accomplish by having public comment?
It's
Just
it's the opportunity for the public to weigh in, and just as kind of a transparency process, so that if for some reason there is a nuance that we failed to realize, and someone happens to notice it, that they have the opportunity to speak up. It's a democratic process, really. I'll take that back. It's
Okay.
just to allow people a venue to be able to give feedback. We do not have to incorporate any suggested changes, but it's the process, even though we should take them into account.
I have a couple of questions, 3 questions. On the well repair, even though we haven't had them recently, when we hit periods of drought, we do see people coming in for work on their wells. And also, I think there's been some correlation between development around houses where the new wells going in around them affect their water levels and they need to deepen their wells. And we are heading, I don't know how the snow has helped us and whether we're still in significant drought, but we have been. So that's maybe not a constant thing. And Mark, maybe you could speak to, because that fee went down, but for well repair and well deepening, it seems that they've been kind of complicated, but I don't know how it compares to a new well.
Yeah, and they're close. If you're deepening an existing well, you're obviously not drilling, so I won't be reviewing more than where they drilled into the well. But there's still the requirement for the water testing because they're drilling into a new source of water. So in that case, it's especially if they're just replacing a pump, that's one thing. But if they're deepening that well, it almost gets categorized, in my view, as a well replacement in that same category. So I would say a well repair should only include mechanical changes, such as a pump. If they're deepening a well, maybe that could go down into the replacement well category because it's pretty much the same amount of work. I was thinking about that when it was being reviewed, but again, the repair is one thing, but that should only be for mechanical needs. The deepening of a well
Mhm.
does pretty much follow the same requirements as well replacement.
I'm looking at our previous annual reports because I did have those all pulled because I've been working on creating predictive models for how many permits we might expect based on different markets and real estate and other economic indicators in Sherborn. Because the advisory committee would like to see how I know how much money we might make. And so I'm looking at that. And I will say in 2015, 20 between 2015 and 2024, well replacements and well deepenings have been categorized kind of as the same, it looks like. Definitely. So in 2015 and 2016, it looks like we had 5 deepenings. And then in 2017, it looks like that's when they started categorizing them as a well replacement slash deepening, not as a well repair. I'm just double checking those right now, but it looks like since 2016, they've been well replacements slash deepenings, and not repairs.
So we may want to keep that same category because the amount of work on a well deepening is the same as a well replacement almost. Because I'm not there for the drilling purposes, but for the pump test of the new water source and the actual water testing. So yeah, we probably could jump it back. The well deepening could probably go back into the category of well replacement. Yeah, perfect. Exactly. And then well replacement slash deepening. Well deep. Yep.
Okay. Let's see, another question. I think it was the 4th plan revision that the fee went down. I would rather it didn't because part of this, there are 2 pieces to this. It is somewhat meant to be a disincentive to constant revision because what we've also seen recently is that the whole plan does need to be reviewed again every time there's an adjustment. So it is a lot of work. Keep doing it over and over again. Therefore, if the original plan review is $700, it's maybe not exactly that amount again, but it's a fair amount to look at every element and see if there were inadvertent changes that got made that perhaps weren't even intentional. Shifting of lines, accidental placement of something, it requires a review all over again each time we get a revision. That one I wasn't too keen on changing. And let's see.
So Daryl, so the 4th plan revision would
I
stay
would have
at
kept it
300.
at 300.
And then just to, oh, Sarah, would you mind skipping back to that screen?
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up both at the same time just so we can all take a look at how we got to that number.
Oh, the side by side.
Yeah, sorry.
Then
I'm just
that's what-
thinking in practice, folks have had to re-review entire plans. It's not just to go and check the one
Almost like a
thing
new plan.
that the designer thinks they're changing, but accidentally changes other things. So it needs a thorough review to be approved as a plan. So a lot of work, I guess, is the
And then
perspective I have.
Within that kind of series of after the first revision, you then get charged for the second, the third, the fourth. I think it was also the second revision then that had decreased by like $10 from 150 to 140. If we were to keep the 4th plan revision at 300 versus the what was it, 250, 240? I don't remember. I'm sorry, without it in front of me. If we were to leave the second revision at 150 versus reducing it to 140, it would keep that whole category unchanged. Am I correct? Oh, hang on, I gotta move over.
Yes. So I'm just up here. I have
Yeah. Oh no, it's oh no, we still have. No, actually, I'm sorry. I'm trying to. There's part of this that's cut off. I want to make sure I have.
I didn't even mind
Right.
the reduction on the second plan revision so much if we're just trying to get people to get to, you know, tweak their plan and small things that were missed. But the goal is that it all gets cleaned up. So
Yeah.
having one free revision and then another revision, but 4, 5, 6, it's, you know, it is taking a lot of Board of Health time. So I'd like to have that little nudge to get it done.
So these are the numbers for second, oopsies, for second, third, and fourth here. Oh my goodness, if I could draw a circle, that'd be really helpful. For plan revisions, these bottom 3 calculations. And we did them based on the amount of time, again, it takes for us to process them, the additional review, additional pre-construction meeting is all accounted for in that. However, it is up to the board what they feel is best to do in the situation. I will say in my very short time working for the board, I have gone through and reviewed the amount of checks for whatever reason we get for different applications. I'm really not seeing a whole lot of those in terms of revisions.
Yeah, I would agree, Sarah. We back many years ago, we had an engineer that continuously made mistakes on the plans, and I don't know why, because they had to come back as a revision and a fee. But we haven't seen that kind of situation recently. That's a definite.
And I will say, I think, you know, the back and forth that we get a lot with the plans, with the checklists and the engineer's involvement. I mean, I don't know, but I've only seen one. I've actually only seen 2 come in, and they've both been from the same applicant. Mostly just, well, that's not true. I haven't counted them, but
Yeah. I typically see them getting up to the third plan revision, but very unusual because they get one revision with the original fee, and so we they're not getting it by the third revision. There's something wrong, but you know, there has been those issues, but those were prior years. But they were, you know, they were incrementally charged more based on the mistakes made, I guess. And so it's always been that if you look at the current fee structure, it's always been, but if you didn't get it right by the fourth revision, you're going to have to pay because it's not just the amount of work, but I guess the constant educating the designers of those plans.
I also want to just take back what I said about the one time. That's the only time I've actually taken the check from someone that said revision on it. Gene would know more, but I don't think we get it a lot. And Mark also would know more.
Yeah,
So
no, I haven't seen
for the
the fourth
record, just
revision.
wanted to say that.
Haven't seen the fourth revision in a while because again, it's an educational process if they're listening, and we have that checklist, so there shouldn't be any issues getting everything resolved within the second revision, if not the third.
I think we've had up to 6 revisions. So,
Oh, I'm sure there have
but in
been.
any case, you know, so it won't happen often, but again, the idea is to hopefully one, cover the costs. I think it gets a little harder reviewing very similar plans over and over because you easier to miss something because your brain is making assumptions that it's the same as it was before. So for me, I'm going to have to review technical stuff sometimes. That is harder and takes more focus and more time to make yourself not fall into that trap of thinking that it's easier. I do think it's harder to do.
Yeah, it
And
is.
become blind to certain things. I forget what that's called, but there is a term for it. So that's just my argument for, but we could move on. Everyone could vote and decide. And
Or
then
incrementally
my
go up
group-
60, if I could, Darrell, maybe just
Yep.
as we did prior, it went up 50, then 100. We're going up 60, so maybe 120, and that would bring it to 320. If you follow the same increments that were done with the current fees. We went up 50, then 100.
Okay, I can't even remember what the numbers were that it's on the fee now.
Yeah, it's over to the right
for-
side. So you jump up 50 on the third revision, and you jump up 100 on the fourth revision. So with that said, if we kept it in the same category as the current fees, it would be 60 for the jump from second to third. And we went 50 to 100, so we doubled it. So it would jump up 120 from 200 to what would be 320 if we're going to follow the same format that we have in the past. And there is a penalty involved with that too. I mean, that's why the board did that, I think, in past years. That, as you said, it at a certain point, if they're not getting it right, how much more can we educate them? And it's more letters and more conversations with the designer. Why do you make us do it this? It does create more work. It definitely does.
Mhm.
It's up to the board, though.
Okay.
I guess versus comparing it to the previous incremental jump, and I understand your reasoning for that, Mark. If instead we compare it to the revisions for new construction versus replacements,
Yeah.
that would be another comparator, in which case, um, you know, I almost wonder if for the second plan revision for new construction, it's 150, but if it's a replacement, it's 140. That feels like one of those things where in 5 years, someone's going to say, why is that? Why isn't it just the same? So I would be inclined to change for the replacement, the second plan revision, leave it at the existing 150, understand the rationale to 140, but it might just be easier. I also feel like the fewer anything that we're changing, if it is that 5% delta, which is close to what that is, I'm not sure it's necessarily worth it, especially if we're talking about a decrease, versus just the pain of having something new for people to learn and for us to apply. I think I would, if we're not going to leave the fourth revision for replacement at 300, I would at least suggest that it be consistent with the fourth plan revision for new construction to 260. Just to have some consistency between those fee schedules.
That would make sense. You will get questioned on that, so that will make sense. To keep it
I'd rather
consistent.
see it stay at 300 for both. But
And I'm comfortable leaving it at 300, and I'm comfortable making them both 260. I can see a rationale to both. I would just suggest that there's consistency between those revision fees for replacement versus new. Other board members, anybody have anybody have any brain power left to weigh in here? I know we're getting late in the evening, guys, and so we should probably be wrapping up shortly, but Daryl, did you have other big ones that you wanted to
I
address?
just had one other one about the disposal works installer permits and what constitutes initial. because, say we had someone who was doing work in town or a firm, and then 10 years later they came back. And would we still view that as a renewal, or is it worth doing some kind of checks again? Also, some firms, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like some firms sign up for the permit and some put it in individual installers' names. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That is correct. Yeah, the majority, I would say the majority now are businesses, but we do get the individuals, but the majority of the installers, there's two of them actually, and both of them have other people working under them, but they come in as a business.
Okay, but haven't we gotten somewhere it's the same company name but different individuals identified on the application, or is that another category that I'm thinking of?
I'm not for sure. I know on pumpers, on haulers, they have the amount of trucks, but on installers
Okay.
lately, it's come down to very seldom do we see individuals. If we do see individuals, but the majority of the work now is being handled by two companies, basically.
Okay. All right. So maybe that kind of takes care of that. But anyway, whether there's any kind of time period, for a renewal to count as a renewal.
Yeah.
Um,
Where the amount comes in is, and I didn't mean to jump in on you, Sarah. It's more reference checks for someone that we never heard of before. And again, the field is so limited that it's almost regionalized. You don't see installers usually coming in unless they're going with the developer who may go to many regions. Then you'll see a new installer. I've seen that with development with new construction more than I have with repairs.
So currently, Mark, how long does someone need to renew yearly to then get the renewal? Or if multiple years go by since the initial and then they come back, are they new or are they a renewal?
It's exactly, I think it's a very good question. And when does it end? But I don't know if we'll see it too often, to be honest with you. I think if they've gone by the wayside, they're usually gone for good. They may have done one job for a developer and now we don't see them anymore. But I haven't seen it too often where you'll see someone coming back after 10 years or 5 years.
I will say that Jean and I did have this conversation where we kind of came to the conclusion that even if they worked in town many, many, many years ago, like Mark said, it's a very small pool of installers that are available in town and available locally. And, if they worked for us 10 years ago and then they, didn't come back for 10 years and then they come back, there's a good chance that we know why, or they know why, or someone knows something, and it doesn't require the extra effort of checking references. It's really for anybody who's never worked in town or in our area, and we need to check references.
So having dealt with lots of firms, in this kind of environmental service sector, who is on staff can make a big difference in the kinds of the quality of work that comes out. So that would be if they're signing up as a company and it's 5 or 10 years later, they may not have the same staff there. That gets a little tricky. I know it's hard to address everything, and make sure everything's perfect for things, but I just wonder if you called around and got references, if they would be the same as they had been the first time around.
Well, when they
apply
as a company, we don't really, when they do apply as a company, we don't get their employees' information. We get the operators, like the point of contact, but we don't necessarily always get the actual installers' information. So I would say if that's something that the board is concerned about and would like to know more about, I think it could be worth it to revisit the actual application, where we ask for, who's actually going to be installing it, and sort of doing it, not per truck as the septic handler permit is, but per installer, and we can permit individuals to install. But when we get the companies, we don't know who actually is coming in, because it's the how I interpret it, and Mark, please correct me if I'm wrong, but when a company hires someone, they're taking that person on, and they're taking that person's liability on, and that person's quality of work has been vetted by the company. And so
Yeah.
that's why we do it that way.
And that is correct.
If the
And
company culture persists, that's the thing that I've seen change over time. Companies who were good decline, who weren't so good gain experience, get better. So it's a very tricky thing and not a perfect process. I just wanted to, my original question, I guess, was the easy part is just how frequently, if it's year after year that the company's coming into Sherborn and doing work, then our agent knows, and the staff at the Board of Health know how well they're doing. It's when there's a lapse that you don't necessarily know anymore. So that's why I asked. But
no, and
maybe
that's
hard to implement, or just put a number of years to say that it goes back to the initial, just as a
Yeah,
double
well,
check.
and that's a good point, Darrell. And what disposal works installers permit initial or change of director or main operator, because I deal with three company, and it's three actually, not two, that when we do pre-construction, it's with the director of that company who applied, and I always ask if they don't, they have to relay the pre-construction information to the person on site. So, but maybe, like you say, a big company could be sold out. Well, then it's initial again, but it's still the same name. So, or change in, maybe we could say a change in installer or something like that. Initial or change with the main installer or whatever. I mean, trying to think of the wording for it, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
It could be a
Or
big
maybe we don't have to put the wording in here. It could be initial, but we need to determine what are the qualities that
Yeah, and I like that idea.
that affect what is an enduring initial review.
I like what Sarah was just writing. She was writing something about requiring reference checks, and that's when a reference check would be required, is when we're not seeing the same operator that we had seen over the years. So
All right, maybe there's something to work out on that, but it's late. And
no, I understand. But Sarah was just writing that would require reference checks. Well, the others do too sometimes. But if they're renewals, like I have three companies I know of, and they're always the same directors or operators, so they wouldn't require a reference check.
Right.
Yeah, so that might be
Because
the way
then
to do
you
it.
know them. You have firsthand knowledge.
Exactly.
You don't need a reference check.
In fact, we
All right,
become
so
their
we can-
reference checks. Yeah.
We could figure that out at some point,
Yeah.
but it doesn't have to be all spelled out in that
Sure, that's fine.
fee list, which is what has to get published in the paper, which is why we have to decide on
Yeah,
it
no, understandable.
tonight, if we want to have the hearing in March.
I like what Sarah just wrote.
I
If
do
that's
too.
what wrote that, yeah. For the
I
first time, it requires a reference check. The initial fee will be applied.
I think that's good. Daryl, did you say that was
it for me.
okay?
Hmm.
The only question that I had was actually resolved. And so I was going to clarify one thing quick, Sarah. I'm sorry, I missed it. For the building permit application reviews, if the 2% portion of the building permit application, if that 2% is sufficient to cover the set fee, they're not cumulative, right? You don't put them together. It is, if the 2% covers, say, the $40 that's required for a deck, great. If it doesn't, then we would charge the 40 instead. Is that correct?
Yeah, so it's let's say so the building application permit fee, like the fee that they submit, is based on the cost of work.
Yeah.
And then if 2% of that fee that they're paying
Yes.
is greater than the set fee of the Board of Health, they will pay that 2% fee. They will pay 2%.
So if the 2% is higher, they pay that.
Yeah. So for example, just quick and easy, if we set the fee at $1, they are paying the building department $100. 2% of $100 is $2. That's greater than our fee. They have to pay $2.
Okay. Okay. That's what I just wanted to,
Yeah.
to clarify. That makes
So it's like a superseding thing. And the only reason that is because there are certain building permit fees that come in that provide revenue that would be frowned upon to, not frowned upon, but would be counterproductive to reduce.
Yeah.
And this is the existing policy. However, it's not, the standing fee is $25, not this amount.
Yeah. And in some ways, this is setting minimums then.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
Excellent. That was my only clarification. Other members of the board, questions or clarifications for the proposed fees? Diana, Steve, or Rebecca? Actually, I don't see Rebecca, but I don't see questions on people's faces. We all kind of need a coffee break.
I
You know,
think
Sarah,
that
I'm impressed with all the work that you've very
Diana, you froze briefly on us, Diana. Do you want to say that one more time? So
I've been having challenges all evening. Turning off my video didn't seem to help any. I was going to say, Sarah, that this is, I really appreciate the amount of work that you put into this.
Well, it's not just me, but thank you.
Yeah. The staff is all the staff, certainly led by Sarah, but all the staff has put in a tremendous amount of time and thought and consideration. This is a long overdue update, but I feel better. It's more recent than 1998, so that made me feel better. So are we then ready to call these with the changes made this evening? Our final proposed fee update, yes? Do we need,
so.
I'm sorry, I can't find you, Daryl, to see your face. Daryl, yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm not sure. So I like on the well repair, that was adjusted. The deepening was moved to replacement. For the disposal works installer initial, it's been cleared up by saying anything that requires reference check, that clears it up. It's just the fourth plan revision fee. That is, I'm not sure where we landed on that. Otherwise, I'd be ready to vote on everything else.
I bet we can clear that real fast if we want to. Sarah, when you're able to just move to that section so we have the number in front of us. All right. So there's kind of three options. There's for the replacements, both the replacement and the new construction, they had been identical. We could leave them unchanged, right? Or my suggestion was if we are altering the second, third, fourth plan revision fees, that they should be consistent between replacement and new construction. The question I didn't think anyone was opposed to that. I think the question then became, if we are changing specifically the fourth plan revision, do we do 260 or 300?
Mm.
Right? We're talking a delta of $40.
And I'd suggest what Sarah just did, just don't make any changes to them. I think keep them the way they were. 150, 200, 300, 150, 200, 300 for those revisions.
I mean, certainly for the second
Okay,
plan
but
revision,
first-
it's $10.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess I guess the argument that functionally was being made is if you're at the point where you're at the fourth revision, there's probably a fair amount of time that's going in elsewhere.
Yeah.
Um,
You know, and that can happen with a change of engineer. That happened on a recent property we reviewed, and the engineer that they took on didn't look at the other engineer's plan, and it was a long haul of overview. And I won't mention the address, but it just happened, and there was a lot of work involved with that second and third revision.
yeah, I think that's usually a sign that it's complex going on there.
Yep.
All right, so I think Daryl, then the answer to the rest of the board, I'm comfortable with not changing any of these revision fees for either replacement or new construction. Because they're clearly, the fees as they stand are clearly capturing the cost of the time of our staff. And they're pretty accurate actually as they are. Does anyone disagree with that, leaving them as they are?
Yeah, that's fine.
And there's no one screaming no, so I think, I'm sorry, Daryl, go ahead. I started.
I'm good with everything now.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay. So in that case, I think what we had discussed last time was to hold a public hearing on the March 4th date. That was to provide an opportunity for public comment. As with all public hearings on proposed regulatory changes, and I think we would, if we're counting this in the similar bucket as that, it would be an opportunity for the board to listen, and we would not be engaging in back and forth dialogue with participants. We would then, at the end of a hearing, close it out, and then the board can then deliberate if we felt like there were any changes that needed to be made based on the information that we heard. And at that time, what I would suggest, unless there's something completely out of left field that comes up, we should be prepared to approve these changes at our March 4th meeting so that they can be enacted specifically within this budgeting period. Is everyone okay with that plan?
Do we need any kind of vote tonight for what we just went through?
That's what I
We're
don't
going
know.
to vote on whether to post it as our desired changes.
We're gonna,
Then go into the newspaper or
Okay.
to alert people as to what's coming.
and it has to be posted at town hall, right? Visible, maybe even on the website. Is that possible?
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to Heidi about it because they're doing it right now with the regulations. So I'm just gonna talk to Heidi about it tomorrow
Perfect.
because I hear
Okay,
her
and
talking.
I might check with the Attorney General because, or you could do that. Because historically, the requirements for planning board have been very different than what was required. Again, most of our requirements spin off of the septic notification requirements, which are much different than planning board. You know, we had a post with the language to be changed with different coding, you know, fonts and whatever to illustrate what was the previous language and what was the new language so that people could see all the changes. Planning board is able in some cases to post generally what the hearing will be about, but not the precision. So that's the part we want to follow, what we've done, required or not in the case of fees, since we haven't gotten a firm answer on that from DEP. Then we continue to do that, we need to put that in the paper. So that's the difference. And we could talk about those details and look at examples from past and recent, like 2023, I think was the last postings that we did. So
yeah.
Any case, too late now for that, and that's minutia, important, but and if we can confirm that we can have more flexibility on the septic portion of what we're doing, I mean, we should do everything the same, but the septic doesn't have to follow all of those rules, we could consider adjusting that. Agree, but
So, Daryl, why don't you make a motion to approve these proposed as our final?
oh,
Or I could do it, but I was going to invite you to do that.
So my motion would be what? That I make a motion to approve the fee schedule as we have revised this evening for the purposes of then publicizing it for the public hearing as the language or as the new fee schedule that we intend to enact, or something along those.
Updated.
Updated.
Revised, updated.
Yeah, revised, updated. Probably updated sounds better than just revised because it does imply more than a mere revision. We've come up to date with what we know now about the dynamics of information through the Board of Health.
I'm going to consider that a motion and so moved.
Seconded.
Discussion. Hearing none.
Carol Beardsley, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Becca Honeywell, aye.
Excellent. Motion passes. Okay, we will work on the posting element of that, and then we will be prepared for the public hearing at our next meeting. That's exciting.
So just the reason I was suggesting that we just vote on it is that a previous town council told me that regulations require public hearing and posting, but fee schedules, we have the authority to just create and vote in ourselves as a board, because we're elected to represent the Board of Health and health issues. But those are subtle distinctions, and I understand your desire.
I completely appreciate your distinction. I'll let Daryl answer that one though.
Yeah, town council in the past, or not town council, I believe it was other authorities, had said that anything that involves septic has to go to a public hearing, anything, including fees. Now that may have changed, and that's what we haven't figured out is, has it changed from the past? But that was very clearly the direction we had in the past. In a long time, though, we've done a update.
Mm-hmm.
So there lies the question. And DEP was asked, and DEP was not sure. They did not say, no, you don't need to do it. They said they were not sure. Now, we're still in limbo. This is the safest route to take. But well, anyway, we'll figure out whether we can find another way to confirm that one way or the other.
Let's move on. We have meeting minutes and just updates. So meeting minutes pending are the January 7th and the January 21st meeting minutes. Let's start with the January 7th. I submitted a few edits. They were all grammatical or just language clarifying, nothing of substance. I didn't submit them until earlier today, so I imagine Sarah hasn't gotten to look at them. Other,
I did get to your January 7th ones.
okay,
Sorry for
Um,
misspelling your name.
it's okay. I'm surprised I actually caught it. Um, is there any, how many members do we have a majority who are ready to vote on the January 7th meeting? Last time we
Let
didn't.
me just double check.
Raise your hand if you're ready to vote on the January 7th meeting. Okay, we have a majority. Good. Did anyone submit substantive edits that they want to note before we vote on?
No, that's what I'm checking.
Okay.
I'm not there
I
yet.
haven't received any. Or I haven't added any.
Oh no, the AI is thinking I'm raising my hand. I'm sorry. I'm not raising my hand. I don't.
Oh, that was AI?
AI just saw me put my hand up and decided that that means it should give me a virtual hand
I
too.
think mine were, I discussed them last time or some other time. I think they were, everything's taking a long time to open. Reason. I don't think there was anything substantive. And I
Okay.
think I gave Sarah the right to challenge me on whatever I put in there if it didn't make sense to her. So
Okay. So do I have a motion to approve the January 7th, 2026 meeting minutes with submitted edits?
So moved.
Seconded.
second,
Hearing no further discussion.
Daryl Beardsley, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Oh, Rebecca, you're muted.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
All right, motion passes. Let's move on to the January 21st meeting minutes. I also submitted a few edits. They're a little borderline in terms of if they were substantive. The section that well, let's see if I can actually pull it up. I will just note the one section that I submitted anything that might have been substantive was around our discussion of project status relative to 65 Farm Road. I wanted to just clarify that what our understanding of what triggers linkages or a common plan is not singular to infrastructure. And that's what we were trying to articulate there.
I haven't
That was
gotten a
my,
chance to read them over yet.
yeah. So that was I can pull up the specific language if somebody wants to see that, but it was a one sentence clarifying language. I want to make sure that it's clear that the board does not have a one and only one definition of that.
That's good. I agree with that concept. And that is important to include. So thank you for doing that. I have not had a chance to look at those because.
Okay. Do we have a majority of members? Oh, I'm sorry.
I have a substantive edit.
Can you, have you shared them? Or can you just describe it to us or share your screen or
So I
whatever?
sent it to Sarah, but I'm going to send it again because I just realized I looked back in my sent file and I realized I attached it to like some old, the wrong email. It's in the last paragraph on page 5 and it states, Rebecca Honeywell stated her personal opinion. And so this is a substantive edit because it's not my personal opinion. What I stated is, I'm proposing that the sentence state Rebecca Honeywell reiterated her ongoing concerns about cumulative impacts. That's already there, and lack of compliance with Mass General laws on the Farm Road project, specifically Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Sections 81L and 81M. My personal opinion is that based on the scientific evidence and that was presented to the Board of Health on multiple presentations by scientists and experts, hired attorneys as well as scientists hired by abutters and the neighborhood and Farm Road, who expressed concerns over cumulative impacts. My opinion is that I would follow their advice and that I do believe that we should be following the guidance of the MAHB, that this was a big project to begin with. It was subdivided into lots that were considered to be ANR lots, and that's questionable under MGL 81L and 81M. So I'm simply requesting that this sentence say that the cumulative impacts and lack of compliance with MGL Chapter 41, Section 81L and M. I didn't have the specific reference in the meeting. And my personal opinion is that there are cumulative impacts that we should pay attention to. And I requested that the town council comment on it. And I am requesting again that the town council comment in writing to the board, to the full board, not just two members of the board, because I would like to read our town council's response to that specific issue. I think it does apply, and it pertains to the objections that were raised by abutters, and I think it applies to the potential cumulative impacts for the town and the water table. So the minutes is just a one sentence amendment, but I looked up what the reference is, and so I'd like to include it there. And it's not my personal opinion. My personal opinion is that we should listen to the experts and that there may be potential impacts for the town.
Before
I think-
anyone says anything, really quickly, Rebecca, I see your email. Thank you for sending it. In your email, you do say page 5, last paragraph. I'm just not seeing where I said personal opinion. So
I just sent it on the right one. No, I just sent it on the right one. It was accidentally attached in response to a previous email about minutes.
It's okay.
It had to do with another section. No, on those minutes,
Mm-hmm.
the Page Farm project is above it, and below it is this Farm Road project on the same minutes.
So it's from the January 21st minutes.
Yeah.
Do you think that you could just I'm just rereading and I just don't see where it says personal opinion, so I want to make sure that any edits I apply to the right section.
Okay. Let me go back and if we're not going to vote on it today because not everyone has reviewed it. Are we voting on it tonight?
It's there is nothing under open meeting law. That was our last meeting. We just
Mhm.
need to have voted on these and posted them within 3 meetings. And so we have time. We could push this out until our March meeting, and that would be fine. It sounds like, given that there are multiple members who have substantive edits, it would be best if all edits, let's set a deadline for this, for edits to be submitted to Sarah, so that she can then set up or send out V2 or whatever we want to call it of these minutes with these edits so people can look at them. And a reminder, this includes to myself, that minutes have to include what was said in a meeting, not the
Right.
things that we wish we said. And trust me,
I agree. And I don't want it to be inaccurate. So I'll go back and review that and make sure that I'm commenting on the right thing. But often in this case, I need to find the letter. So let me just review that, and I will make sure that my email to you is accurate.
Sarah, when do you want us to set a deadline? What's a good timeline for you for edits for the January 21st meeting?
To have before the March 4th meeting?
For you to have time to incorporate. If you are concerned that they are not consistent with what was said at the meeting, you have time to evaluate. And then for you to be able to send it back out and have time for board members to review. I feel like it might need to be at least a week before the meeting.
I would say the sooner the better. I have multiple visits in the coming weeks, that multiple days where I'll be sort of preoccupied with other things, so I won't be able to dedicate my full attention to the minutes. So I'd say if possible by no later than Monday the 23rd. That would be really helpful. That way I can get to them by try and get to them on Tuesday. If not, I can get to them on Thursday. Then I can send them out Thursday and give board members a chance to review them by that Monday.
Okay, very reasonable. So we will hold off voting until the March 4th. If you have edits for the January 21st minutes, they need to be submitted to Sarah no later than February 23rd. That gives, over a week and a half. If it gets too far out, you forget about it, Okay, we will not vote on that. Excellent. And I will, just to clarify on a point that you made, Rebecca, I wish that we could share any comments from town council freely with board members. That is within the authority of the select board because it is privileged attorney-client information. That is the direction of the select board. Correct me if I'm wrong, Daryl, but I
So
believe.
so the select board has specifically said that the full Board of Health cannot read what the attorney states about
They
matters
decide.
before the Board of Health?
We, as the Board of Health, that privilege, that attorney-client privilege is held by the select board. And
Yeah.
who it is released to or how it is released is at their discretion. It is not the discretion of the chairs.
When we get things in writing, we share it with the board, but sometimes it's not in writing. And some of the meetings I think you've missed have been like executive session with the select board where there's lots of discussion. So that's why, all the board is notified of when that happens. And it's
So
select board meetings.
So am I, as a member of the board, I'm interested in reading what our town council thinks about the relevance for this chapter, section 81L, 81M of the MGL. If that is, as an elected member of the Board of Health, who do I direct this question to? Is this something that you would ask on my behalf? Or do I have permission to request?
Could you write something up for us to then run by town administrator?
Right. So then
And also, what is that section about? But it's too late for that. If you could write something up about, write your question out.
Well, I
That
sent
would be
an
the
email
best.
to
Write
Sarah.
it out. Don't tell it to us now. You write it out.
No,
us,
I just
okay?
requested at the meeting, I asked if we could hear what the town council has to say, and in the email.
We had relayed what town council said.
I just didn't, at the
We did
meeting,
that.
I couldn't remember which section of the Mass General Laws it was, and so my question didn't specify that particular Mass General
Okay,
Law.
then write it out now so that we can
Yeah,
pursue
so I
that.
actually
But
sent
write
it.
it down.
I
in
did.
detail what you
Daryl,
want.
I'm trying to tell you that when I wrote my proposed edit to Sarah, in that email, I specifically requested to read the town council's opinion on this Mass General Law. It's in writing in Sarah's inbox.
You requested to read, but I don't know that we have a written opinion on whatever it is you're talking about.
That's fine, but they might respond that they haven't written it in writing.
Oh, okay. All right, but that wasn't
If
an
I'm
edit
just
to the minutes.
interested
That
if
was
they have it, if I can read it.
Right, and then, okay.
Okay, all right.
If you write it
I
out,
guess
we can.
forward that to us. Forward
can
just the question. Don't forward the minutes, edits, because we can't.
No, don't.
Well, I'm going to
don't send us that.
make sure they're accurate. If it's true that I wrote it to about the wrong paragraph, I need to correct that. So I will review that, what I sent Sarah, and make sure it's accurate, and then either that will be forwarded to you, or I will write a separate email for you.
Okay. What is that section about? Don't worry about what the
Hang on,
number is.
Daryl, hang on, we're getting a little
FinCom.
far off. It's 10:30.
Yeah, yeah,
Hang on.
okay,
Okay,
okay.
so I don't want to go into that depth. It's
All right,
Rebecca, if you comprise your edits and send them to Sarah, and only Sarah, she will review. The separate, related, but separate question of you would like to ask town council a question, right? That we have to get permission from town administrator. And then if he says yes, it can be submitted to them. And town administrator can also clarify the attorney client privilege, because again, he'll know that answer. But my understanding is that that is held by the select board. And so information is released at their discretion.
Yeah. And, but that was something that I did request at the meeting on the 21st. And so,
And then if you put
Should
that
be
in for your edits,
there.
send it to Sarah.
yeah,
Does that make sense? Okay,
yeah, I sent it already and I'll make sure that's accurate. And then we'll make sure that everything is straightened out.
perfect.
Thank you.
All right, on the agenda for next month, we have our hearing for the updated fee schedule, right? We're going to hopefully vote on the minutes for January 21st and potentially for this meeting too. Sarah, did I miss any of the minutes? No, because it's February. It's still February. It's not
Yes.
been here a little bit. What else do we have? Anyone else for the agenda?
We have a variance hearing
Okay, we have a variance hearing.
for 20 Nason Hill. Margaret, you're muted, but I think it's for 20 Nason Hill.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm talking to myself here. Yes, 20 Nason Hill Road, and that's if they make the required
A butter
notification to
notification.
abutters. Sarah updated us today that there was discussion at a department head meeting that the U.S. Postal Service is doing things different now. So if not, they'll have to wait for the next meeting, but they're going to take the chance, according to the engineer. And the two co-chairs saw that and Sarah saw that I'm working on a building application. They wanted it for tonight, but I told them you can't do it the same day. And that probably will be on the next agenda. That's 13 Peckham Hill Road. So those will be the two items that I'm aware of at this point. There could be other septic plans ready at that time as well. Thank you.
Awesome. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded,
No further discussion.
Carol Beardsley, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Have a good night,
Good
everyone.
night, everybody.
Good night, thank you.
Night.